Call to order of our Pleasant Grove City Council tonight. Welcome, everybody. Hope everyone is comfortable in our nice, comfortable chairs. We'd like to recognize that all council members are present. I recognize that Mayor is gone tonight, so we'll miss him. I've asked for our Pledge of Allegiance, Jaron Spencer of the Great Troop of 98 to come forward and lead us. Thank you. And I've asked Christy Belt to give our opening remarks. Thank you, Christy. Jaron, I have to apologize. I think I told him there wouldn't be that many people in attendance, and there is. So, all right, staff. Looking at the meeting agenda, is there any changes?
We do need to add an executive session on a property issue.
To discuss the sale, lease, or
Purchase.
purchase of property.
Real property. Yeah. Do you want to add that to right at like 18?
Yeah, just whatever's,
The end after.
yes. Well,
Anything else?
no, that's it.
Okay. We have a motion for tonight's agenda.
I make the motion that we approve tonight's agenda with the addition of an executive session for real estate purposes at the end of the meeting.
Second.
We have a motion by Sid and a second by Diana. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're to the open session part of our meeting, and that's for all items. We do have a couple public hearing items on our agenda tonight. If you'd like to come up and address anything else on there, we welcome you. You just have to state your name now.
I have to leave, so I'll be fast. Wendy Morgan, 1595 North 210 East. I was going through the budget, and I understood most of it because I've done accounting, but I did have one section I don't understand, so I'm just looking for understanding if you guys could help me. So I have a few questions, and I don't know if you want me just to read it, and then you can answer.
Sure.
Is that what you would prefer?
That'd work.
Okay. I was looking at the administrative fees in the enterprise funds, water, sewer, storm, and sanitation, and the budget shows that we collect just over $1.81 million. And I wanted to know how that number is determined. And I think that number is used to pay for the administrative salaries and the administrative costs, if that's correct, and please correct me, because I'm just looking for understanding. And I wanted to know if there are any other costs that the fees cover. And I also wanted to know if there is ever any type of analysis done of the administrative fees, of what is collected versus what is expended. And then I wanted to know if there's ever an excess, what happens to the excess?
Sure.
So those are my questions.
Okay. So Scott, would you like to address that, or
Let
Tina?
Denise, she's the one who
Okay,
calculates
Denise.
it and does that.
I think it's different for each city, but yeah, go ahead.
So it's actually the administrative fee that the enterprise funds, the general fund charges to those enterprises funds. And it covers, some examples would be Scott and I's wages.
Right.
And we do it based on percentage of budget for all the divisions in the general fund back to those funds.
Can I
Yep.
ask what the percentage is?
I don't know right off the top of my head, but we do that. We look at it annually when we do the budget each year. And it's actually, budget for 17 is just over $2 million. And so we do look at those every year, and we have a big old spreadsheet that we do those things on, but that's what that covers,
And we- and
just
if-
for those type of
And if
fees.
you want to come in and sit down
Yeah.
with Denise,
Yeah,
we'd love to have you
I'll
come
do
in
that.
and
That would be awesome. And then is there ever any excess? And what happens to the excess?
Generally, here in Pleasant Grove, in the prior city that I worked at, we actually did it as it was just a cost. We didn't go back and analyze everything. It was based on what we thought the fee would be. And so you could go back and do that, but we haven't at this time.
Ooh, I'd
in the
love to.
last
That
2
would be
years.
fun for me,
So,
because I'm weird.
yeah,
I'll-
so
I'll
we'd have to
send-
go back and look at after we finish the audit is when we would have to look at that.
I'll send you an email. I'd love to come sit down with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Wendy. Anyone else?
Lori Williams, Pleasant Grove. I wanted to ask how much the transaction fees were for the PSB bond. How much did it cost?
For what bond?
For the,
The
bond
closing
that we
costs and all
yeah.
that?
yes.
I don't have that off the top of my head. We could, I mean, we have the documents back in the
Is
office.
any, if you guys know?
Scott, you sent an email about it. I'll see if I
Yeah.
can pull it up. I don't know if I'll be able to in like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But
Well,
I don't know
the,
if I will be.
I mean, the
actual.
final actuals, we just barely got funded on the bonds
Yeah,
last week.
that.
Yeah, so I don't,
'Cause-
if you want to come by tomorrow or something, that we can go over that with you. I don't know off the top of my
Night
head.
before she leaves, Scott. Is that possible? Or do you not have that in
Can
writing?
I,
I could find them.
We'll see what we can
Yeah.
find.
okay.
If you're here at the very end of the meeting, we'll announce it.
I'd like
How's
to,
that?
okay.
Okay.
Like it. And then also, well, because I actually want to talk about that. That's why. So I'm going to ask another question is I noticed the Valley Vista Trails, there's a social media page, and I'm just wondering if there's a contract with them authorizing them as an agent to like tell people they can be on the trail, they can't be on the trail, because is it a city trail? Is it a Valley? That's,
I
I'm
think
just
Valley
curious.
Vista just as a general reminder, right? You're talking about the Facebook page?
Yeah, but people that like kind of police the trail. I'm just curious how that
think that would
works
fall
because is
beyond-
that acceptable?
The Valley Vista Trail is a city trail, and we've asked the trail committee to help us regulate those rules and conditions on that trail. So
Okay,
they're up
So
there
they
a
have
lot more than we
authorization
do.
too?
Yes, yeah.
okay, okay.
Lori, we haven't answered your question.
Oh, look at
Denise
that.
has
Okay.
found
Oh.
that.
Yeah, it's $70,010.73.
1,000.
That's total, and then there's 7 invoices that make up that dollar amount.
What?
7 different invoices. You had legal counsel, rating agency, those type of things. So there's
Okay.
Other
Because
fees.
I remember in December 6th, it was said that it was going to be about $35,000.
That was to do a second
That was
issue.
Second, yeah.
reissuance. Yeah,
A reissuance, no, they said that it was,
in 2 parts.
I just listened to it today, that it was 2 parts, that it would be double that then. So I just wanted to,
Scott,
there-
once
I can
once he
see
come
that
back in to
breakdown.
talk about it, isn't he coming to talk about it?
Yeah, he's going to come on the 7th
So-
and go over all that.
oh, okay.
The financial advisor.
So is there a way, though, that I could get a copy of all of that?
Yeah. You want to fill out a grandma request?
I
right?
did,
Okay.
actually,
Then
and
we'll
I,
send it to you.
okay, well, I was told that it's not available yet.
Well, it might not be available yet, but if you'll fill out a grandma request, we'll check and see.
Okay, well, I did like 2 weeks ago, so if it's,
I don't remember seeing it.
Kathy, have you? When did you? Oh, okay. Well, fill it out if you haven't, and get it in, and we'll take care of it.
okay,
Thank you.
sounds good, thanks.
And Lori, I apologize, sorry. So sometimes when we ask specific, when the public asks specific questions related to finance, sometimes we don't have the answer right off the top. It's not that we're not trying to be transparent. We just want to make sure we give you the right number before we go on record in, a public meeting saying that. So I appreciate your patience in letting us get that number to you.
Hello, I'm Kevin Sykes, resident here in Pleasant Grove, 1100 North 50 East. I got some concerns about 1100 North. I know eventually we're planning on pulling the strings and straightening out the little humps and bumps, but until we do that, we got to do something to make from First East to above the canal safe. There's a lot of blind spots. I mean, coming off Murdoch, you got less than one house visibility from the cars coming through the dip over the canal. Go on the other side, and it's the same way on Murdoch. You go down down off the Crown of the Hills. We cannot get in and out of our driveways. It's a road that was never designed for the amount of traffic it's got on it. The only thing that's ever been done to the road is a little bit of a shoulder put on it. And I know, like I say, I know eventually we're going to pull the strings and straighten it out. But until then, we got to do something to safeten this road up. So, what I was thinking is some four-way stops. I know it's going to make a lot of people mad, but I'm not here to make people happy. I'm here to make people safe. You know? So I'm thinking, I can get my back to it towards me there.
We have some scouts here that can hold it up for you.
Mayor and Council?
Yes,
I mean, we can take this as staff.
yeah.
You're not going to decide tonight whether we're putting in four-way stops.
Well, I was just
Yeah,
saying.
so if you
we-
want to give that to us, we can evaluate it and give a response back to the city
Okay.
Mrs.
council.
Sykes, is that okay? We are having a road discussion next week, though, if you'd like to come.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a commercial truck driver, drive residential. I've looked at a lot of intersections with similar, trying to come up with a solution. I've talked to our street department. They point our fingers at the police department to get a patrol more. They say point the fingers at the, I'm not going to point fingers. I'm looking for a
Solution.
permanent temporary fix. I've had to sit down with mayor before. This ain't something that's just a whim.
There is no argument. 1100 is probably one of our top roads that needs work on, so.
Okay,
yep.
so I'll go here
Yeah,
and
give
talk
that
to
to
these
Scott.
guys.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ken?
Smaller than that.
Do you have a,
Is she here, Ken?
That one was just what I
Is she here?
thought, because I thought.
do you want us to just take this, though? Is it clear on there where you have to?
Okay, Mayor and Council, I'd like to have you recognize with me Amy Carden. I'll ask her to come forward.
My concern is,
We've asked Amy to be here tonight so that we could recognize her for her great service on the Planning Commission. She recently completed a little over 4-year term on the Planning Commission. And I just wanted to mention an observation I made with Amy is that she seems to have always, not always, but at a lot of good times, brought forward an alternate view of how to look at things, and that's very appreciated. So we wanted to thank Amy for her service and give her this plaque and say thank you.
Amy, I have to give you a hard time. Can you come up and just give us a few words? You are a kind of a reasoning voice on the Planning Commission, so we appreciate it.
Here, I'm
I know.
so red. I really enjoyed serving on the Planning Commission and working with City Council and all of staff. Great experience for me to learn more about the city and my neighborhood and to be a voice. And I live over at Gateway Village, so I'm over in the condos down there off of 700 South. So I think sometimes since we're in the multifamily area, we have kind of a different perspective. So I don't know, my experience, I've served on my HOA board for a lot of years. Lived in the city for 10 years now, a little more than.
Easily.
So anyway, but really enjoyed it. We have great members in the community and members on council and on staff, like really great to work with people. I learned a lot. It was a good experience. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. We still have open session if you'd like to get up. All right, seeing none, we'll close open session for tonight. Move on to item 6, consent items. Any discussion? Okay, not working anymore.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the consent items.
Second.
Motion by Diana and a second by Sid. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right. I'm not sure if they're here or not, but moving on to item 7, board, commission, and committee appointments to consider the appointment of Sam Sanderson and Garth Lovell as planning commission alternates. Ken, have you seen, I don't, Sam, Garth,
Did
or,
they know they were being presented tonight?
Know this, mayor must have put this on without my knowledge.
well,
Well, you know, I'd say let's wait and have them here in person, if that's okay, because if they don't know otherwise.
can they still take on their alternate roles without, okay. So maybe we do that. I'd like to have them have the opportunity to get up. Yes, yep.
Hey, Ken, how are we doing on filling vacancies in that board or that commission? Do we have more?
Have two, okay, so were both of these that you mentioned both for planning commission?
Yes.
Yeah, so that would fill the need that we have on planning commission.
Okay.
So do we have a motion to maybe,
Wait, did we get a Sam Sanderson?
yes,
We
we
did.
did.
I'll go back and look on that one.
Okay.
Did we
So
wanna hold
do we
off?
need to make a motion to move that to the 7th, or can we just move it? Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we continue this item to March 7th.
Motion by Ben, second by Lynn. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, moving right along. We're into presentations. It looks like we have 3 of them tonight. And our first one, A, is American Fork Canyon Update. Presenters is Colby Rollins and Bob Bonar from Snowbird, sorry. Welcome.
Good evening. Bob Bonar, the general manager of Snowbird Resort. And I'll start by thanking all of you for making time for us again. I think this is the second or third presentation that we've done. And since the last one, we have been doing some water monitoring in Mary Ellen Gulch. And I appreciate the opportunity to go over some of those results with you tonight. This is an update on the results from the first 9 months of water quality sampling, April through December 2016 in Mary Ellen Gulch. Sampling has followed the details from the water quality monitoring plan that was agreed upon between American Fork City, the Division of Water Quality, Utah County, and Snowbird. Mary Ellen Gulch water quality assessments have been under the direct oversight from the Utah Division of Water Quality. There were 6 water quality sampling sites from the top of Mary Ellen Gulch to the confluence with the American Fork River. With oversight from American Fork City, a third-party contractor was hired to sample 11 different metals at these sites once a month. Results from the first 3 quarters from the sampling plan show all results for lead, arsenic, aluminum, cadmium, nickel, and iron are well below state water quality standards for both cold water fishery standards and drinking water standards, even though the American Fork River isn't classified as a drinking water source. Many metals are consistently below detection limits, including chromium, mercury, selenium, and silver. For zinc, there have been a few results above the cold water fishery standards in the upper parts of the basin, but the results drop well below the zinc standard lower in the basin. A couple of other updates. The EPA, as you probably know, is conducting a preliminary assessment to be completed hopefully by the fall of 2017 to see if some of the old mine sites pose a threat to human health or to the environment. The DEQ, the Division of Water Quality at the state level, has asked Snowbird to submit an application for a permit to discharge and process wastewater for the Live Yankee Mine adit. And Snowbird has done this in full compliance with the state agency starting in October 2016. Snowbird has provided the EPA and the Division of Water Quality current and historic water and soil data associated with these tests and with the Live Yankee Mine. So that's the update. So far, we feel that the results are good and as we expected.
Great, thank you, Bob. Do council have any questions?
I have a question. Are these results available online anywhere?
Yes, they are.
Where?
They're available online. The DWQ has them. American Fork City has them, as does Utah County.
So
And
are
if you
there
don't find them there, let me know and we'll get
Okay.
them to you.
So are there specific numbers that define the well below? Because I'm not sure as an everyday resident what that means. So are there percentages or numbers that determine like what the study, the number that was
Yes.
taken out of? And
Yeah, we have all that information. It's all, again, from this the independent studies that we've done. It's all on graphs as to, what the actual tests are and then what the different standards are, whether it's for a cold water fishery or for, drinking water standards. It's all available.
and that's online as well?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any others?
Oh, thanks, Bob. That's
Great. I really appreciate everybody's time and we get another, 6 or 8 months under our belt. I hope you'll give me the opportunity to come back and go through it again. And I very much appreciate your time. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
thanks. I do have a question now that I think about it. You said another 6 to 8 months. Is that the plan to continue to monitor? How long will you be monitoring under these kind of?
So when the Board of Adjustments approved our plan for Mary Ellen Gulch, it was they required us to do a 2-year water monitoring study, and I believe that started in April of this past year. So we're coming up here on our 1-year anniversary, 1-year start of that plan. We'll go for another year, and then subsequent to that, on a less frequent basis, we'll continue to do the water sampling, I think, for another 8 years back there.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you all
you.
again very much.
Yep. All right, we have next is our presentation on water where is it at? Conservation, sorry, from our beautification committee. And I have to say, our beautification committee is.
I was going to say it
I'll let you go ahead.
first.
Go ahead.
So I had a chance to be I just got to go to their meetings, and I just have to say that the quality of people that we have serving on committees and commissions in this town is just exceptional. This committee especially, just high quality, very, very professional, very, very smart. Was that? Did you want to
I
add
can't
to
beat
that?
that, sorry, Nathan, so. I'll
And
let you take over.
fun. So sometimes when you get smart, you don't get fun. No, I had to throw that in.
Guys are the whole
Oh,
package.
someone grandma request that one. No.
We do try to have fun. Lots to talk about, but we try to have fun. So I'd like to recognize Mark Bishop. He's actually the chair of the Beautification Commission right now. I'm Nathan Gerber. I'm the vice chair. About a year ago, just over a year ago, we came to City Council and presented a water conservation, education, and awareness plan to try to help get the word out about conserving water and our long-term goals of doing that, and trying to update people with that information. So that was about a year ago. We wanted to come back and explain where we are. Mark's going to be handing out to each of the council members a little packet of information, and you can refer to that as we go through this. I'll keep it as brief as I can, but just bring you up to speed a little bit. So last year, like we talked about, really there's two pieces to this. There's the water conservation plan itself, which is maintained by the Public Works Department, and then the awareness and education portion has fallen under the guise of the Beautification Commission to help get that word out. So that's kind of how we broke it down in the two parts, so we can work together. There's really three key elements. There's the education and awareness portion, and then there's the regulation and monitoring portion, which we'll be dealing with down the road. That's not something we're.
Can I ask you to do a favor? Can you pull your mic up? You might have to just hold it up and do it. I'm sorry. We just want to make sure everyone can hear it.
Yeah. Okay, great. Like I said, the three parts, education and awareness, that's where we're focusing right now. This is a long-term process. All the other cities and municipal groups that have done this, it's really a 20-year plan. So we're in it for the long haul. We know it's going to be a while. The regulation and monitoring will come later when we don't know all those details yet. So those are kind of the three parts. So really the education and awareness, like I said, it's a 20-year plan. The first 5 years was laid out to be more of an education process across the residents. And then years 6 through 10 would be focused more in what we call the large volume consumers, businesses, churches, schools, those types of things. And then we just continue on through the next 10 to 20 years. All of this is just a recap from last time we came. So what we explained last time is we have several education channels that we're trying to reach, trying to get the word out. And we wanted to give you an update of where we are with each of these. There's the website, the social media, a flyer information sheet. We'll talk about that here in a second. A magnet, parade entry, free water checks, assemblies for 4th grade classes, coloring books for younger children, and then what we call the WaterWise Pledge. So where we are with each of these is the website is available. It's at conserve.plgrove.org. There is several updates happening over the course of the next few weeks. I'll explain that here in a second. We haven't started social media. We kind of said, look, we got a lot of ducks to get in a row, and as we got those ducks in a row, we found out we had more ducks that we didn't know about, and then those ducks hatched ducklings, and it kind of got out of control. So we said, you know what? Social media, we're gonna hold off just for a second here. There's a flyer information.
I say that every night.
If we had less water, we'd have less ducks.
There you go. That's a good argument. Let's see. The flyer information sheet is in front of you. It's a two-sided flyer information sheet. The one side is all about indoor water conservation. The other side is about outdoor water conservation. So that is created and it's being distributed. What we're going to do is we've partnered with the scouting organization in the area, and we're trying to dovetail this on top of the Scouting for Food drive that's happening in the middle to end of March. So that's canvass once and just be done, instead of canvass and then canvass again and canvass again. So that's what we're hoping to do. There's a magnet that will go with this door hanger and the flyer. That's what will go out to each of the city residents. Just as a reminder to stick on their fridge to always be aware of our water resources and conserve where we can. The parade entry, we've done that. We've got the banners we enter each year. Starting last year was our first year that we did that. Throughout blue taffy, it's water droplets. We were going to do a water cannon, but that's not conserving water, so we decided against that. This free water checks, some of you have heard of Slow the Flow across the state of Utah. It's a campaign they've been doing. As we've checked with the state and we've checked with the local Utah Central Water District, there isn't enough backing in that program to allow us to piggyback with them to have those free water audit checks. So what we've done is we've shifted to what we're going to call the outdoor self-water audit, which is really a checklist that you as an individual will be able to go through on your own and just see how well things are working. So it's something that can be self-managed. We want to reach out to the 4th grade classes. They do tie in some of their curriculum into, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's to do with Utah history and your local government and those kinds of things. So we want to tie into that a little bit with 4th graders, and we've got a pilot program that we're trying to kick off this spring in the Grove Crest Elementary with all the 4th graders. The program's been developed. We're ready to go. It has 4 stations during an hour-long assembly and talks about the water conservation process. The little booklet that's in your handout is the booklet each 4th grader will get, and we'll be able to fill some information out during that education assembly. Trying to make it fun. We're going to get the water droplet mascot from Utah Central Water District, and he's going to dance around. That's what Mark's going to do, right, Mark?
We have it on the record, Mark.
There's your social media.
There's our that'll go viral. We've put this together, trying to get a time with Grove Crest that works. and we'll pilot it out there. Once we've done that and we see how well it goes, we'll make some adjustments and then get it out to the other elementary schools on the 4th grade. We also have coloring books, which you'll find in your packet, that we can give to younger children under the age of 4th graders. It's something that we can hand out during Arbor Day celebration, Strawberry Days, just some little activity book to help remind everyone of water conservation. This all drives towards what we call the WaterWise Pledge, which is something that will be on the website. It's not quite done yet, but what that'll be is it'll be 3 steps, and I think I have a slide here for it. So it's really 3 steps. It's really just to self-audit yourself or your family, work as a family or as a group to try to understand how we can best conserve the water and move forward little by little. This isn't about changing everything all at once. This is simple things like, hey, when you brush your teeth, turn the tap off while you're brushing. Or when you're shaving, plug the sink and you fill the sink and use that, or something to that effect. Run your dishwasher when you have a lot, full load to run instead of all the time, those kinds of things. So just simple little things to try to help. Outdoor is the first one. The third one is the indoors. And then the second one in the middle is really just to review the information that'll be on the website. So it's really kind of a self-auditing, self-education program. Once you've done that, you can fill out a form on the website, which will put you in the drawing that we're going to have every other month for a simple prize to do. And you also get the sticker you'll see in your packet there that can go in the window to show others that you're participating where you can. So those are the main pieces. We came last year asking for some budget, and so we wanted to be accountable and report back on that budget. We requested $4,000 a year, and we did receive that. That's what we've been using to develop these products, and we'll get it out to the 9,000 homes. So it's a fairly large project to get that out to everybody. We've also been working with the Public Works Department for an additional $1,000 that they have set aside for education on water conservation. And then we told you that we would be seeking donations. So what we've done so far is we've received that $1,000 on an ongoing basis. You guys were great, and you've given us that budget. And we have also reached $1,350 so far. And so we're a little short this year, and then we reset that clock again July 1. So in June, we'll be going out to businesses again looking for additional sponsorship and donations to start that again each year. So those are kind of some accountability on the numbers. So that is really the gist of what we came to show you where we are, report back on what we're doing with the funding that was given to us. And this is going to be going all out in March, and then we'll just continue the education push as we go. So any questions or thoughts?
Quick one. Do you have, this is awesome work, by the way. Do you have an avenue or portal where volunteers can help out if they want to go around and collect donations with you or hand out materials with you? Is there have you ever done that? Have you thought about that?
I know we have on the volunteer site to be part of the Beautification Commission. We could modify that and say if you want to also be involved in helping us do on the committee side of those things, because we have lots of work groups, as you can imagine, working on this from several angles. So that's actually a great suggestion.
Love to see that. I think there are people who may not have the time to serve on the committee or on the commission, but would be willing to do what they can to get the word out.
Great suggestion.
Thank you for that. Plug as well. We've become fully staffed for the first time in quite a while in 2016.
You just can't steal Libby's neighborhood chair, right?
That's true.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, thank you. This is impressive what you guys have done with your time and put this together. I do like the water droplets in our packet, though.
Yeah, they're
pretty good. So
it can be a long meeting, so we want to give you some substance.
Actually, I did notice that first.
Drawn to the chocolate.
No, but really, because I'm the city council member over your committee that gets to sit with you, and I really am impressed with the character and the work ethic of the committee and the amount of time that they put in is just amazing. So, and I am looking forward to mascot, seeing the mascot thing. So
That's right. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
I think that's why everyone what came tonight, right? Is for the water conservation. So
It's all
sorry,
about
Marty.
water.
All about water. So next is discussion on and public comment on Walker Ridge water tank landscaping. Director Beaumont, take it away. So just out of curiosity, just by raise of hand, who's here for Walker Ridge? Impressive. Okay. There you go, Marty.
Perfect.
No pressure.
Talk to me afterwards.
Oh.
And I know where you live, too.
Actually, we know where all of you live.
All right, let's get started here. I wasn't the one that called for this to be on the agenda, so I'm interested to hear. I know it is open for public comment and thoughts, and I know that there was some interest in, indicated to me that there would be an interest in the community up there to come and talk a little bit further about the Walker Tank development, where we're at. And so happy to hear further discussion on that. So just a little bit of help for those that aren't aware of the site. Computer to work here. This has been a big board that has been posted up on that site for the last 3-4 years. We knew as the Walker Ridge Development Plat A came in that we wanted anybody that was building on this cul-de-sac to have an understanding that there was a plan to build a future secondary water tank in the site. And this is the picture that was shown there. We're now much further down the road. The budget has been allocated for this year to be constructed. We went into design with our consultants. They've done further grading plans, siting of the tank where it would sit, sizing of the tank, which is key because it did change from a 1 million gallon tank up to about 1.7, 1.8 million gallon tank, which is going to help greatly on that upper system and what its use is. And so we've kind of went down the road. Today, one other thing is many of you know me and that I love basketball.
Except for
quite
this
a bit
morning.
of basketball.
You're
for this
going to
morning.
cover the tank and add a court.
So I was going to open up a fun image here that shows you what it currently looks like today. And I know that we're probably going to hinder a future NBA star up in this cul-de-sac.
Are those like real? Are those Photoshop or are those real?
Oh, now that picture
Oh, they're
was
there right
taken
now?
last week.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow. Wow.
I personally
Impressive.
haven't shot in this cul-de-sac, but it looks like a
I'm like-
very exciting.
That's like some major speed tournaments going on. I mean,
So-
that's serious. I like
Okay,
that.
go ahead, Marty.
Okay, sorry. Little
On that
distracted
note,
here.
little segue.
But as you can see, I think the important thing to look here on the side is that you can see that there's
Wow.
quite a bit of elevation between here where we're at and where we're needing to try to fit a tank. Now the tank height is 24 feet. I think we discussed before that we've got about 35 feet of relief across the property. So putting a tank up in the air like we had showed previously was the concept, but you can see the amount of elevation you're going to have from the cul-de-sac all the way up. As we started looking at that, increasing the size of the tank slightly, the diameter, doing that became more of a big wall type of effect right at, if you're standing on the sidewalk looking at this thing, you're looking at a 35-foot tall concrete wall. So we reconsidered that concept and discussed trying to move it a little bit lower into the ground. That does have its impact when you move it. I think we're going to lower it about 10 to 12 feet lower than where it was shown in this plan, so that we could deal with some of that grade on the front, which means we don't have quite as tall of a wall in the front. So this is kind of the previous siding of how the tank would sit on that property. You can see there is a pump station associated with the tank, and then there is a tank. Right now, the considerations that have been discussed with regards to landscaping, fencing, whether or not it's covered, and those types of things are probably the most items that are wanting to be discussed tonight. So I don't know if we want, I can go through a presentation and maybe open it up at that point. Knowing that we've kind of changed from this original plan here to now a lower location, I thought it would be helpful for us to redo just some very quick architectural concepts of what it might look like today, and then we can kind of better visualize that. There's been discussions about whether or not a fence is installed at all, whether or not there's a privacy fence, whether there's a wrought iron fence. So I quickly had a few of these concepts made. This is a concept of the kind of the elevation that you would see from the road. Here's the pump house, the tank. Right now, the plan is from grade after you come off the back of sidewalk. I believe it comes up about 4 or 5 feet in the front there. That would be landscaped. Likely would have shrubs, something to cover the face of the concrete so it wouldn't look like just a finished concrete wall. Maybe some stucco, something of that nature to make it fit in nice. Then the next 13 feet from here to here is really what you would visibly see. It's not that high. 13 feet's not significantly tall, but I think it's a great elevation to not stick out of the ground 20 or 30 feet and be really an eyesore. So this is kind of a concept of what that site would look like with just kind of a grass. And again, we would plan to do some sort of a shielding on the frontage with some sort of either shrubs or low shrubs, nothing that would hang up over the tank, but something in the front. If you looked at what it might look like if you considered a wrought iron fence, again, we would do fencing, and this is currently actually, if you want my opinion, what we should do. We should fence the property, make it nice for the community, but as far as making it an open access public facility where people are wandering in and around this structure, I don't think that's the best option for the city, personally. So if you fenced it with a wrought iron fence, you could see that we would fence off the frontage. The frontage would be open with some sort of landscaping, and then the remainder of the property would be fenced. And this is an option with a wrought iron fence. You can see that it's not hugely decorative in this view, meaning there aren't like concrete pillars, block pillars or anything like that. And those become very, very expensive. So if, those things could be considered, but what we would do is very simple wrought iron fence if we were to do that. The other option would be with more of a privacy fence, a 6-foot tall privacy fence. You can see with that the visibility of the site is diminished. You would still see because of the elevation, it is up on the hill, you would still see the landscape up on the hill, which you can visually see there. But you'd also get a little bit of blocking of that just from the privacy fencing around it. It would be posted as all of our other facilities are, no trespassing, public facility type of things, with a phone number there to call with anything to report. This concept and the 3 concepts that I've just shown you, depending on the type of cover, because of the elevation of the tank and lowering that into the ground, we've discussed some concerns with adjacent property owners potentially being able to throw a Frisbee in their backyard, it goes over and lands in the tank, and then we have problems with that. There's been concerns for safety of the neighborhood, children and adults potentially accessing the site and taking a swim. Other things of those natures which wouldn't be desirable in this type of facility. Understand that the water level in that tank could go from 23 feet all the way down to 5 feet in a night. So you wouldn't want the option of being able to fall in there. It would need to be protected. Overall, if you were doing a concrete tank, we've done an estimate of that cost. It's about $400,000 to put a concrete cover on that tank. That was never in the original budget. We do feel pretty comfortable with the budget, but we could not cover $400,000 of additional expense on the project. The other options for the tank would be more of a poly cover. We would propose probably a white or tan type color. A couple options of how that would look. Again, this would be more of a stucco type on the cover, and then that has a center post that is supported there, and then you've got more of a poly cover that's supported with straps that come down to the face of the building. So that would be what it would look like if we decided to do this. This type of cover is around $100,000.
Is the poly cover rigid or is that like a tarp?
I'll show you a couple pictures. It is more of it's a polyethylene cover, so it's not rigid. Okay. It's definitely flexible and fits to that, but it is very tight. It's pulled very tight against that with some straps that create your protection, which is that you couldn't fall through it. You could cut it and fall through it or something, but you wouldn't have access.
But it gives you the ease of maintenance.
Yes, so there is an access location where we would access the site. If you look at a couple of the other options, I just had them throw this cover on there with the wrought iron fence, or if you look at it with the vinyl fence, the privacy fence around it. So currently just a couple of concepts there. This is kind of a rendering of, well, actually this is a picture of what it would look like, the one that we've considered the $100,000 option for covering the tank. This is a green cover. They have different colors that could be chosen. You can see that there's some straps here. These are actually tightening straps to keep it taut so that if it does snow, things of that nature, the snow does shed and you don't have all the snow bearing weight on that. So this is kind of what we've come up with. We've looked at dome shaped, we've looked at aluminum shaped. The aluminum covers are around $300,000. There really isn't a good option for domed other than aluminum. There is a nice corrugated metal that was quickly not considered just because it looked terrible. Unless you like metal type silos, it didn't really go well. So this is kind of what we have to present. This is where we're at tonight. We need to quickly make a decision. We are hoping to bid this in the next month or so that we can get it constructed. We would like to try to get it operational by the end of the irrigation season so we can see and start functioning on that tank. And Central Utah Water has asked that we, as soon as possible, get off using their storage that we currently use in that zone. So we are anxious to get moving. We can, once we make these final decisions, we can go ahead and get this thing out to bid and move. Quickly, difference of cost between a wrought iron and a vinyl fence. Right now, I think it's 630 feet or so of fencing. We're probably looking at a $15,000 to $20,000 difference in cost between a privacy vinyl and a wrought iron fence. So we're going from about $30,000 to about $50,000 in cost difference between those two options in our preliminary quick estimates. So,
and who's going to maintain the landscaping?
So depending on the type of landscape, the frontage we would hope to be maintained by the Parks Department as far as any sod that would be mowed. If the interior is sod, then that would be mowed by Parks. If it's going to be rock, we probably would do the interior with the Public Works Department, just spraying weeds, keeping the weeds down, and they would do the frontage where it's going to be nice and landscaped. So,
Any other questions from?
Can I just, sorry.
Sorry, Scott.
So Marty, and I know there's been discussion with the residents here, and I've asked Marty that he gives his recommendation based on current budget. And so the recommendation, I think, coming from you is the 6 foot vinyl white privacy fence and the polyethylene cover.
that is
Is that where you're at? Okay.
And whether the interior is sod, or rock, I think cost-wise, there's not a whole lot of difference. We could do either option. For Public Works, we're a lot we can spray weeds better than we can mow weeds. So, but Dion's indicated that his preference would be grass because that's easier for him and his crews to drop off a mower, go mow it all, and be done with it than it is to mess around with the weeds and the rocks and things of that nature that will come. It will be there. We just need to deal with it. So.
One quick question, Marty. That photograph that's posted there on the notice board at the location shows the very first rendering. Is that right? This picture?
That is what has been posted there for the last few years, yes.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Any others? Oh,
Well, that's a good question.
we can, well, if we're done asking Marty a question, we can open it up to the residents and then move from there.
I would suggest that we treat it like a public hearing, so
Yep.
we do a 3-minute time limit and then as many
That's
people
fine.
as
We'll
would
give
like
it
speak.
to the 3 minutes, but we ask that if someone gets up and says the same thing that you're going to say, just maybe get up and echo that maybe, or just say that's my feelings again. But we appreciate you coming tonight. So any other questions before we turn it over?
So maybe some points of suggestions would be if you like the wrought iron or the vinyl, or if you like the rock or the grass, or if you like the color or not, the cover or not. So I think those are the things that we would be the most interested in knowing. Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
That's good. And we'll keep you close by, Marty. Is that okay? Okay. All right. All right. So those residents who raised their hands would like to come up and express some concerns or pros or cons, whatever, feel free. You just have to state your name and you're good.
Nate Holmes. I live on the other side of that house.
Okay.
So
There's a pointer right there, Nate, right in front of you, that blue, right here.
this point,
Marty, can we move it to the map maybe if they want to point to the
it's
center?
fine. It's fine. It don't matter. So I'm just curious if it costs $100,000 for the poly, how often do we have to replace that?
About every 25 years. And it wouldn't be a full replacement, right? You just have to replace the cover, not all of the construction costs of the under stuff.
Okay, and if it was covered, would we need a fence? If it was covered with like concrete?
There would, probably need to talk into this a little bit.
Yes.
If we look at the option where it is, if it's a solid concrete cover, because it's a cover, we would probably have to fence all the way along the edge of this as well, just in case, because, somebody could get on the site, walk to the edge, and there's a potential fall hazard there, so we would have to probably put a fence up along that if it's a concrete cover. If it's solid that somebody can walk on. With the domed cover, we wouldn't expect that somebody could actually, well, they could. Not likely that they're going to try to do that. It's going to be a lot more difficult.
Thank you. Any others?
My name is Kevin Floyd, and I live in that cul-de-sac. I have a couple questions. I have two questions. One is, so on the front, the height of the cement on the front was around 13 feet?
Correct.
What's the height of the cement on the back side?
2.
Okay. And
Or 1. It's at grade level.
It'll be at grade.
Yeah, it's so high up there, it'll come down to it.
Okay. And the second's more of a request. So the area is pretty tight knit. Everybody likes everybody else, and the property currently is used as foot traffic from the lower section of the neighborhood to the upper section of the neighborhood. Would there be a possibility that the fencing can be moved in a little closer to the cement and allow foot traffic to access through the property?
That's a good idea. Marty?
So we're looking at more of a public access through the site. If we look at, let me quickly shift to another image here.
Maybe on this border? Yeah.
So the item, so right now we're talking about this property here and this property here. Previously, there was a discussion about needing to have an access through to 13th East that would access the top of the tank. Again, that was the concept where we were at grade on the backside so that we would actually have a back access to it. We've went away from that concept. We've implemented a few things into the design for cleaning and maintenance of the structure where we don't feel like we need to have access behind that. So that means that we don't need to have a direct access out to 1300 East. What that means in my mind is that at some point the city will need to consider what to do with what could be excess property here. There is no planned use of that property. We did purchase 3 lots. Currently, we would expect that that would be excess and could be sold. If you maintain a thoroughfare or an access from the cul-de-sac up to 1300 East, then you would be talking about fencing probably both sides of that access, or maybe you allow the adjacent property owner to do the one side and you do the one side. But that could be considered, but we would be taking the property probably from this upper lot and providing, you know, a 6-foot type access that would come down and through here. That wouldn't be ADA access as far as meeting slope standards. We've got so much grade that we wouldn't be able to put the sidewalk in to meet ADA standards.
Kind of like a luge in the
It would
winter.
be very steep, and I don't know who would be cleaning
I
and
know.
clearing that during the winter as far as ice and snow, and whether that creates more issues for the city to do that. But would it be nice for the residents to have a way to get from this cul-de-sac without having to go, currently they would be able to come around here or come around here, but not uncommon that people don't. Could it be provided? Sure. Is it going to be more expense to put the sidewalk in? Yes. Is there going to be more fencing? Likely. Does it take away from the upper lot? Probably, but it's possible.
Marty, question. So with the covering that you're proposing, do we have to have a fence around the tank?
Have to and want to is probably 2 questions that need to be answered. I feel that I would like to have that site fenced for security reasons. I don't want, again, it's not a public park. It's not an attractive type thing that we wouldn't want to encourage. The slopes around that thing are going to be very steep, and they're going to be very enticing to grab a tube and try to hit the road, hit the cul-de-sac type of a thing. And my opinion is that it's going to be hard policing that if the site's not fenced, and allowing access to it. It's not going to be perfect for neighborhood parties. The frontage of it will be really nice. I think we can get that nice and landscaped. It'll look really good. But actually being up and around that tank's going to be steep property. And so it's not really conducive to walking up and down and around. Would the kids love to do it? Absolutely. Do we want them doing it? Probably not in my opinion.
Mayor, may I just make a comment about the liability? Just for the record, I know that the neighbors would probably love to keep that access open and not to be disparaging to the people that are using it, but technically they're trespassing right now. If something was to happen on that property right now, we have no duty to the person who would be injured. If we create the access, if we try to fence it, if we try to improve it at all, then we've created a different legal liability. Then they're basically invitees, right? We've allowed them to be on our property and created a situation. Then we would be liable to make sure that it was safe. So I just want you to make sure you take that into consideration when you're thinking about whether or not to leave an access there.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
My name is Kenneth Lane. I live just behind that, to the right. But my question is, after if it's 13 feet from the sidewalk, and then we've got this dome that looks kind of like a concrete yurt. My question is, how tall is it from the top of the yurt all the way to the bottom?
I'm trying to remember exactly if you gain, I guess I can't tell you exactly. I think it was 10 feet to the center of additional rise. Again, that's going to be an additional feet away from the front of the tank, right? So it's clear back.
Marty, what's like a typical house? If you walk up to a typical house now that's up there, what's the height of the house? What?
Probably 35 feet.
Okay.
So you would be less than a normal house for sure.
Okay. Sorry, do you have any?
I guess I should say, I looked at the number and I'm totally drawing a blank to what that was for a 116-foot diameter tank. I'm remembering about 10 to 12 foot high in the center, additional height to get that to work.
My name is Natalie Robbins, and part of my yard faces the new water tank to be. And, you know, we all have a lot of hopes and dreams, and, you know, we're going to shoot for the stars. And looking at these pictures, you know, there's a lot of possibilities. And I'm not real excited about the cover. It doesn't toot my horn one tiny bit. But I do want to say one positive thing about not having the water pump going. I am excited about the new water pump house because for the last couple of years, all summer long, that's what I got to listen to, and I know I'm not the only one. So I'm excited about that. But I know you guys have seen the basketball standards, and yes, if you would love to have a park there, raise your hand. See, you know, we are a tight community up there. Pleasant Grove is a tight community all in its own. But we are in a close-knit neighborhood, and when you say access, part of my yard is access to those kids that want to go down and play basketball. You know, it is just, you feel free to go right through my yard. I don't have a problem at all with it because I love to see the kids down there playing, you know. And I know there's a lot of liability for the sledding and stuff like that. Sledding's been going on there for 22 years because I've lived here 22 years. My boys, they own the hill. At least they thought. So,
for the record, they do not own the hill.
We know, because I'd be paying taxes on it, and I don't pay taxes on it. So, we want it to be more family friendly. Okay, big walls we understand are going to need to be there because of the grade of the host cul-de-sac, and any way we possibly can have it just more family friendly is more neighborhood family friendly, and it also unites our neighborhood even more. So I know there's budgets that are involved. We'd love to have it covered with a cement cover. We'd love to have picnic tables. We'd love to have a basketball court down there, you know, but we understand, you know, that it needs to be paid for. But we have a community that is willing to donate time and effort to make this more family friendly. That's just what I want to say. I just don't know if it can happen, but that's why I came tonight, is just to have a voice. So I could say that. But I am thrilled about the pump and not listening to that. I'm just thrilled about it. So,
Abby, can I ask you a question, Abby?
Yes.
Are you thinking more of what's the park that's up on 1500?
oh, I have park envy. That is, yes, that is a great park. You know, they took an eyesore and made it to something beautiful. I see people, that's part of the trails that I walk around on, and I see people utilizing that constantly. So yes, I do have park envy there. And I would love to see something remotely like that, just to draw more families together on those sunny, beautiful days, you know, yeah, in winter days. But my one question I was going to ask before I forgot and got distracted was,
You can use part of my time.
is all these waterways, these by the Murdoch Canal that are maintained and mowed, they're used for sledding. Who's responsible for that if something happens?
Beyond?
They are the city's property. They're the debris basins.
Yeah, the green basins. I mean, those are utilized for sledding all the time. Is that something that is not supposed to happen for liability
I
reasons?
think our attorney would probably tell us, yeah. It happened.
I'm going to jump in here and add on to this because this is mine. I think that, legally you're to say, don't put a walkway because we don't want to get sued. Well, we're not a sue community, and if you put a sign saying use at your own risk, hey, that covers your tush, but it gives us our walkway because we have friends, we have family, and this has just been the way it is. And if you're just blocking it off because you don't want to get sued, that's a little ridiculous to me. If it could be in the budget, if it could be where we could have a walkway, my daughter works up the street. Put a sign that says you're not supposed to, and that way that covers you, but that also doesn't take away from our lifestyle that we have lived.
Can we grab your name really quick?
My
Sorry.
name is Catherine Floyd.
Catherine, thank you.
And I live in that cul-de-sac.
Okay.
So I know that you're not a suing person, but we get sued all the time.
So put your sign up. Put the sign that says you're not supposed to be
I
here.
understand what you're saying, but I just want you to know that your attitude
happens.
is not always the norm. So
It's true, and I feel really bad about that, which is why I think that if you put your little sign up that covers yours, but we have a neighborhood of people that use that could potentially use that access, and it would benefit our community. And putting a fence up because someone might sue you hurts all the rest of us that don't have that mentality.
yes.
And
But there's always that chance that someone's going to move and a sewer is going to move in.
okay, so you put your sign up.
That's not the technical word.
Wait, what?
That was That was funny, actually.
Go ahead.
Oh gosh, that was good. SUER.
Yeah. I understand that, but I also understand that signs can be put up. Protect you, but don't.
It's actually us. It's to protect us.
That's
That-
what I said.
I do want to, yeah. I want to also remind everybody that this is our corporation, and we are the stewards of it. We all are shareholders in this. And I think the desire, and I think this is just the overriding desire for all of us right here, right now, because this is where government actually hits our boots in the road. I think that, and I mentioned this before, because there was this beautiful spirit of cooperation. It wasn't, don't build that dang tank.
Yeah.
It was, and I felt this from the very beginning with the meeting with the Clarks. There was this, okay, we understand the tank has to be built, and we understand that this is going to service all of those residents on the east side of the canal. I don't know if that's what the case, but
All of Pleasant Grove.
it's all of Pleasant Grove. So I just have to commend all of you for being sweet and kind and not shrill. And
We
I
moved
think
in
there
knowing.
is a win-win here.
We moved in knowing about the tank, and the tank is not bothersome. We just want to look at grass instead of rock. And
Yeah. And I think we
walk
can come
instead
to
of
a win-win.
drive around.
Thank you. Marty,
Tina?
can I?
Oh, yeah. Would a sign cover us liability-wise? It would not.
My question for you.
Question is whether or
Waivers
not-
don't cover you as well. Does everybody understand that? Waivers don't do any good.
Well, I would love, again, we've got Manila, what I call Manila Tank Park is Manila
Yes.
Hill. Is that
It's
what they
Hill
call it?
Park.
Hill Park.
I call it Manila Tank Park.
That's 'cause
'cause
you're
it's a
interested
tank.
in the tank.
There's a tank under there, everybody.
Good
So,
job.
I mean, obviously, that's, a much, much larger piece of property that it's a bigger tank, a little bit more options there. And we're dealing with a very confined space with great elevation. Whether or not we can actually construct a through sidewalk that doesn't meet ADA requirements, because we are the city, I'm not sure if that's possible, which means a direct, type of shot. That's the concerns that I have. It's not that, if it was more flat and a little bit more conducive to a park area, that we couldn't make something a little bit more inviting and accessible. It's just that this site is difficult to do that. Now, is there portions of the site that are a little bit less grade, like on the south side, there's a little bit less there? Do we have to have the fencing go and be 25 feet off the property line, straight across the front? Could we open that up a little bit and leave a little bit more property there? Sure, probably not a big issue there, but as far as getting up and around the tank and operating that, you know, if I was a little kid, it's going to be dangerous to tube down this hill, and it will be inviting if it's open. And we could probably accommodate a little bit less grading on the south side and make it a little steeper on that back side if we wanted to open up a little bit more park area, well, accessible ground with landscaping. But I'm not sure that we can get it to where it's Manila Park because we don't have that type of area to do it.
Marty, you in the last meeting where we discussed this, you talked about a cover that was a flat cover that it wasn't cement, it was just like a similar, I guess, kind of tarping, but flat. I mean, you still couldn't walk or anything on it, but it wouldn't have the peak.
We called them, and it's for smaller tanks and less snow loads. So they were concerned with the diameter of the tank of putting a flat cover because of the weight of the snow. You would have to create a structure that's going to be visible above to be able to support the snow loads, and so it became less desirable. They said they couldn't do a 116-foot diameter tank, but with the snow loads that we see, if it was in California or someplace that they don't receive snow, I think there's other options. But for us, that wasn't an option any longer.
Anyone else? Okay. Oh, sorry, Carl.
I'm Stephen Peacock, and that's my backyard you're looking at when you see the photo of the tank up in there. Our neighborhood is tight, and we want to be good citizens, and we understand if there's a need for this, we support that totally. But we want to have our neighborhood remain intact, and we don't want a foreign object planted in the middle of the neighborhood that divides us or separates us. We're all in the same ward, and we'd like to keep some cohesiveness. I would suggest that the vacant lot next to my home be sold with put a significant rock wall, block wall, cement wall on the backside, makes that more marketable for the city because there's a lot of slope to that lot, and in turn, buy the lot immediately south of the two that we now own, which is fairly flat, and use that as a neighborhood park. Trade one lot for the other. I think there's going to be an issue with all of the dirt that's got to be moved to put this tank in. Rather than haul it off the site, let's do some creative retaining walls, terrace, and keep the dirt, much of it on site or on the back of that lot east of there, which would be, I assume, much less expensive than hauling it out of there. We can find neighborhood labor that would build, that would lay the block walls to help with that. Just as Adventure Park came together by the community pulling as a unit, the neighborhood would do that up here. And we'd like to have something that's friendly and usable. If anybody using that as a trespasser, then we take upon us the liability for any injury. Is that correct?
I'm sorry.
Who's we? Are you?
If I'm sledding out there and I'm a trespasser on a city lot or in one of those water catch basins, that's my problem to deal with the injury. So let's not, if we have to fence, let's fence tight around the tank so we're not an eyesore. Let's terrace. Let's not build a fenced walkway. Let's have a gradual sloping walkway that's grass, that's held with retaining walls above and below, and let people take the risk knowing they're trespassing, not transfer that risk to the city. I think we can find enough effort and energy in the neighborhood to help significantly with the construction of this and make this a pleasant place. A small pavilion down below, maybe a fire pit where the neighborhood could gather for, is that my time?
Yeah.
where the neighborhood could gather for a s'more roast or something. You saw the 3 basketball standards. The kids in the neighborhood would love to have this not be fenced, but be open and usable by the citizens that surround that. Otherwise, it's a square peg in a round hole.
Thank you.
Carl Cooney, 2115 North, 180 West. I don't live anywhere near here. But I landscape for a living, and I beautify sites for a living. And I see both sides of this. From the city side, I see it, and I actually really appreciated his comments. I'm glad he went ahead of me, because I think with some, Marty's an engineer. He does a great job. He's not a landscaper. Dion maintains big spaces, but he's not a super creative guy. Great guy, not super creative. He's not. So with some creativity and the neighbors, I think some things could be done. And my initial comments are very much cobble around it, grass and beautify the front, protect the city liability in that, until he made his comments of selling that upper lot and putting a wall in and generating some funds that way and getting creative could really be huge. I still maintain, though, the city needs to protect themselves. Every kid's a good kid. I was a bishop's kid. Doesn't mean I didn't jump off the church roof, okay? It doesn't mean I wouldn't jump off that tank. So, where you can get on it in the back and do different things, Marty's right. Big liability. If that fence gets within 6 feet of the top, most of these teenagers, these kids will try and get up there. Just say they've done it. And that. But I think I understand time as an issue, but there's a creative window here that he mentioned with that lot and things, that if that could be explored, or a neighborhood committee or something, the tank has got to go in. But as far as the finishes around the tank and the upper lot and things, I think there's a little bit of time to do some good, to see what can become of it that protects the city and also protects the neighborhood up there. Because, one of my reasons for doing rock is I think the landscaping and grass around it, if it's not done right, is going to look atrocious. And, and I don't want to see sprinklers on the concrete wall. I don't want to see shrubs planted that are going to get eaten by deer, because it's not a high maintenance focus. So it needs to be done right so that the neighbors can take ownership in it and that they help the city protect that space. And I think it would be a win-win for everybody. So that would be my main question is, the tank's got to go in, but what happens around it? Could a committee or something be put together to see if funds could be collected and, what could become of it? At least try. So, thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Anyone else?
My name is Amy Clark, and we've been involved in this for years. Three quick things. First of all, I too want to express appreciation for how sweet the council members, and especially Marty, have been in listening and taking their time and helping us understand what it is that we're, the gorilla we have to tame here. I really do appreciate that. We as a community want to do our part to help this be good. Who are the contacts that we could make? I apologize, I can't remember your name, but we feel that this is kind of our window. One question with liability, I think needs to be resolved. If we can do green space, figure out where to put some fencing. With regard to funds, I know there are possible grants for cities and states through HUD and through national parks for things even as simple as maybe redesigning the roof to the pump house to the side, because it is a 28 by 24 structure that's retaining some grass there. If that side of the tank has lots of land and to the southeast, if we can know who to go to from this point forward so that the tank can get built, but we can look at creative ideas for the land and possible structures, getting grants for a slide or two. Again, we don't want it to be a huge liability, but this is our window to discuss. So who would be our point people? I know Diana we spoke to 3 years ago because you were over water or Public Works, but I don't know who that is today.
I think are you looking for a city rep to talk with? I think.
And perhaps would this be something that Parks and the Beautification Committee?
I think Marty still would be a good contact. Dion over here, I know yeah. And Tina is for our legal part.
And so what kind of...
And yes, I agree with all of that. This is your window. This is your time for your neighborhood to get together and decide what you can contribute. Marty, of course, has got to stay focused on the function of the property, but
maybe a few of you, 2 or 3 of you, can get with everybody and then maybe elect some representatives and get with Marty and go and sit down and use that window.
So we sit down
as residents of that area, you can go talk to Marty and Dion.
So what kind of time frame window are we talking about? I know the tank construction probably is set, but for that landscaping in the area around.
actually it hasn't yet gone out for bid.
Quick questions?
When?
Tell us too, Marty, what the plan is with that other lot currently. Kind of give us the time frame and the vision as it stands today.
I'm not exactly sure, other than knowing, at the time the 3 lots were purchased, I think there was always an understanding that one of the lots would be sold and the money would be returned back to the fund, which is our water fund. So yes, we're having less impact now, meaning we're not having a 20-foot wide, access down into the park, into the park.
They've already got you,
You guys have accomplished your mission already.
Subliminal. Subliminal.
Property.
Yeah, that's now official.
Sorry about that. But there is no longer a need to have an access there, but we do need easements across the property to get both power and water to and from the site. So a 20-foot easement along the north boundary is what is currently being proposed that would be reserved on a lot. The plat that was approved would be modified based on our most recent layout, and that would be a clear, at some point, surplus option to sell, return the funds back into the water fund. Now, discussion, yes, there's a lot that's adjacent just south of this that is very odd, awkward, small. It's owned by the Boyers, the Boyer Company, I believe.
Marty, could you point to it with the pointer right
I'm
there?
trying to find my mouse.
Oh.
So it's down in this area right here. So there is not currently a house on that lot, and it is currently owned by the Boyer Company. Yeah, it comes all the way back, I believe, to this area and then runs along that and then comes back out here. So right on the border of our property. I could show you on the county data, but in fact, I think I have the county data up. But anyways, so that, as far as an option, again, in my mind, the question is, we've spent a lot of money, and I don't know what that was. I'm recollecting something in the $350,000 range.
It was $144,000 a lot times 3, so it was 400 and let me put my glasses on. 432,000.
Okay. So right now there's a potential to regain, and I don't know if the lot up there would be worth $144,000, but let's say we could get $120,000 for that lot. Could it potentially be used to acquire the other Boyer property? Could it be used to do landscaping on the site? But again, we're using funding from the water fund to create something nice, and we're trying to do something nice that works with the with the residents up there, make it so it's not an eyesore. But at the same time, we've got to come to grips with if we get community assistance, block walls, can the tank go in? Yes. Is it effective for us to try to keep some of the soil that would normally be exported from the site on the site to do retaining? It becomes very difficult and expensive when you hold off on doing any portion of work after you do the work. So it's easier said than done. Is it possible? Yes. Is it going to be complicated in long term? Yes. But so the easiest thing for me as a public works director and somebody that just wants to see a nice, facility that works and looks good, then I would like to just get it done. I understand the concept though of a community trying to build a neighborhood. It won't be a big city park. It's a small piece of property. It will be a neighborhood pocket park. And the question is where do we come, how does the funding that would support that concept be achieved?
Is there a way to submit for grant money from the federal government?
Dion would probably be the best, but I think he's been through that.
There's not an awful lot of money for these types of projects. When you get into bigger parks and those types of things, there's a little bit, but there's just not a lot of funding out there for park projects. You get into trails and transportation, moving people from here to there, it does help a little bit, and there's a little bit more money out there for that. But for this type of thing, there's really not a lot of grants that are out there.
So what I see here is an opportunity for a community opportunity with the city to maybe work with you a little bit. Are you willing to work with a few residents?
Absolutely. We can make it nice, and like I said, there's probably a give and take here that would have to be achieved, and some reasonableness in the budget to make it nice for, as part of the budget. That's definitely there. The question is can we get, something that's going to cost that budget another $250,000 to make it exactly how everybody would like it, or where does that funding come from? Because I'm not sure that the budget can handle, my current budget cannot handle all of what we're talking about here. I can build a nice facility and site, fence it, put in the landscaping. I can't do all of these decorative retaining walls, walkways, decorative fencing, parks with slides and things of that nature. It's not in the budget now. So we'd have to come up with how that gap can be met.
Well, and one possibility there might be for the public that are here. I've had a lot of your neighbors reaching out and getting messages asking me to make sure you had a chance to be on the agenda today. One thing you can do as a group of residents is organize and figure out and work with the city. Maybe you can do some contributions from your own pockets, and we could make it possible because it's broken up over time to make a pocket park that's very nice that the citizens in that area want to all contribute to. And that's not the most attractive idea in the world, but if you're willing to donate the labor I heard tonight and you're willing to make it a community effort, there may be some ways to work together. But your window is perfect, but it's also very short. And so you'll want to talk to Marty and you'll want to talk to Dion, you want to talk to Scott probably even about what possibilities are there. So we do want to be helpful. We want to work with you and make it as nice as it can be. And if you're willing to pitch in where you can, there may be more possibilities than without that.
So question, what was the difference in price between the obscure fence and the wrought iron fence?
Right now, I believe it's going to be in the range of about $20,000.
It's 30 to 50.
Oh, that would be some.
Just going to a wrought iron fence.
Which way? Which ones was more?
So
wrought iron fence is much more expensive than a privacy vinyl fence. We're about $24 a foot for privacy vinyl. You're probably in the $45 a foot for a wrought iron fence. So again, there's the difference.
And cover.
Fence the whole periphery, but you tighten fairly close around the tank fence, you have fewer linear feet.
Sure.
That, if you do less fence,
So I didn't want to cut anyone off. Was there anyone else that wanted to get up? Sorry, Marty. If not,
I have one quick question.
okay, if you can come up to the microphone, sorry.
One thing that wasn't brought up previous is, are there alternative covers to the Canvas 20-year life that would give us some time to think about being able to ever put a cement cover on it, or is that completely out of the picture? Is there kind of a Band-Aid?
I think Marty has your answer for you back there.
I don't, if whatever we decide now is probably gonna be what we will maintain and uphold. You can't, to modify that tank to put on a concrete cover.
It was $500,000.
You'd wanna put it in the, $400,000, but you'd put it in the design. It would cost you much more to retrofit it later and be very difficult.
Come on up.
I know we're already gone a while on this, but I wanted to answer your question. Steve Clark, Marty is very willing to talk. He's talked to us a lot, and we really appreciate it. And the water department, and Diana. We've been involved in this a long time, my wife and I, and you know, I realize there's a spectrum here, and all the way over here, you know, is a great pocket park, and all the way over here is a, you know, utility compound, and I really think that there's a, you know, especially with the comments that have been made and the contribution from the council, there's a happy medium here. And I love the idea, always have loved the idea ever since talking to Diana 3 years ago of having it be as open as possible. There's not a lot of fences up there. The reason people are on the hill for the most part is because they want to look out. They want to see. They don't want to be in a cubicle. And so if we can, you know, do simple things. I mean, I know there's great things we can do. There's probably money that we can find through grants possibly and spend some time there, but it is a short window. And so I would like to see us look at simple solutions here. Like's been mentioned, you know, instead of the fence going all the way around it and closing it off, get that fence as close to the tank as possible while still allowing the water department to have the access that they need and you know, mitigate the liability that the city has so that, you know, that area can be utilized by the neighborhood, but not have anything dangerous up there or an attractive nuisance for the kids. Just like these water retention ponds. They're not supposed to be sledding on them, but has anyone really ever gotten hurt? Is that an issue? Obviously, there's a reason it's not policed because it's not necessary, probably. And I think we can landscape, and I really appreciate the comments from the landscaper. I think we can landscape this in a way to where we can mitigate those dangers and make it an area that can be utilized by the neighborhood and have a good feel to it. It's a necessary evil. We want the water tank. We need the water tank. But I've said this before, when in Rome, do as the Romans. And when in a cul-de-sac, you got to budget in a way to make this thing look somewhat residential and lessen the eyesore of it. And I think just opening it up and having the green space is going to truly, truly help us all feel a lot better about the extra water we're going to have.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Chase Sitton, sir. Thank you for the candy and whatnot. We'll get out of here before we cause any more disruption. We live in the cul-de-sac just below the water park, and just wanted to echo everything that Steve Clark said. Appreciate the insight and the leadership that they've shown in the neighborhood. We're willing to do and be a part of any sort of solutioning that we can from a community perspective. You know, if it's putting together ideas or putting together some kind of volunteer labor force. I know in the Provo neighborhood that I used to live in, that was a big opportunity for some of the residents down in Provo. We took advantage of it. There are a lot of scout projects in some of those neighborhood parks that you know, aren't the very large parks or have transportation issues or whatnot. But there really was a community ownership in some of those parks, and I think that you would probably see interest, obviously with the turnout, in doing something similar in this area. Did we ever do a cost-benefit analysis or a 3-year, 5-year cost-benefit analysis of doing an in-ground, park-supported type of structure like on the Hill versus like the open concept here? And the reason I ask is because my assumption is that the degradation of the value of the residential lots that are adjacent to the water tank would be considerable. I mean, they remain unsold today, I think partly because there's a water tank in the neighborhood. Or is this merely kind of an annual budgetary, like let's get it on the budget and let's find the money to put the tank in? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I think Marty touched a little bit on it about the space that we're dealing with compared to his favorite park up there, Hill Park.
I designed that one too. So
Well, there we go. See? Maybe you can address that, Marty, on the cost. I don't think you have, though, have you?
Guess I'm trying to understand exactly the question.
Do we have costs for what it would take to do a similar project like the Hill Park? I think that's just straight up, right?
No, I mean,
So it's not just the cost, because obviously there's cost differential, but the other part of the equation is the benefit or either direct in terms of monetary value associated with the lots or neighborhood around it in terms of home values or property values, or intrinsic value to the neighborhood. Were any of those benefits considered in the decision to go with the current design? Does that make
no,
sense?
and let me, not necessarily, we didn't go into an analysis of adjacent property values and whether or not this would enhance or diminish their value. As far as the tank elevation, we can't go any lower. We have a pipe in the cul-de-sac that comes out at a certain elevation. We've dropped it as far as we can, so we can go higher, but we can't go lower. So taking that and putting, again, a concrete lid on the top of this thing and making it accessible is, again, we would have to protect so nobody fell, those types of things, but we can't sink it in the ground and make this whole thing open. So that's not something that we can do based on the current site configuration where it's at. You know, I know that there were, you know, I did the design of the Mineral and Tank Park, how many other, Hill Park? The Hill Park. And, you know, I went through all the ADA design requirements, and there was considerable funds, considerable retaining walls, fencing installed. You know, and it's a great facility, and it's a great community park. Again, this is not a community park option here. This is a pocket park option at some expense. And the question is where do we get the funds for that expense? Because we could do something, we can make it a nice thing with the money that we have. We know we're in a residential area. We have budget to deal with what we feel is a nice neighbor. As far as dealing with enhancements, that's where we come and have to figure out where that funding is going to come from, because we don't have money to deal with some of those enhancements now. Can the property be sold and use that extra $120,000 for site enhancements? I guess that's something that we would have to talk about, whether or not that's a reasonable judgment. Again, I think what's by the budget and by my water department budget saying, okay, how much can I reasonably do out of this budget that is for this project? And that's what I think we were trying to do with the cover, with the fencing, looking at options, landscaping and those types of things, be a nice neighbor, cover the front with stucco, those types of options. When we start talking about trails and access and things of that nature, again, we need, that's your job, I guess. I'm happy to discuss options, but there's a cost to every option that we're going to discuss.
Anyone else want to get up? Okay. If council have any, Carl, go ahead.
Couple of thoughts. So, can't be a park because it's a water fund, right? So it's not a park. Can't be a park. But you sell the lot and you use that money. That's one option for an enhanced landscape, a nicer landscape than you were going to do. Another option that the residents could consider is not putting a cover on it. I don't know, you know, and Marty hasn't addressed what extra maintenance and that would run without a cover. But if you don't put a cover on it and you save that 100 and something thousand, but you put a 10 or 12 foot, kind of what you would put around a tennis court, a black chain link fence so that you kind of can see through it, and circle the tank and put whatever accesses and gates and everything that Marty needs. Could we save 70% of the 100 and something thousand cover costs, knowing that there's still expenses and taller fences and things? So another question would be, can this project, so there's no grants, guys, and there's not time for grants, okay? There just isn't. And the city's got to move forward with this, but could the approvals be broken into two? Approval for the tank and get construction started, and then the enhanced landscape / fencing in that be a second approval and give this neighborhood 3 to 4 weeks to put their heads together and come up with something, put their wallets together, like Ben's suggestion, start a fund. If they could, as a group of residents or a neighborhood, if they could come up with $30,000, it's their neighborhood. And if they could take ownership in that and help the city out and the city funds, but I don't know if it could be broken up like that absolutely without slowing down the project. That's my thought.
Thanks. Okay, council, any other discussion? Great discussion, by the way. Thank you for coming. So
the reason why we need to move on this project now is because now is a great time to bid it as compared to come July, right? So if we wait till July, there's a potential for increased costs because contractors right now are hungry for work. It's a great time to bid. I would recommend that if we are going to be delayed by this discussion, that we do split it into two, that we move forward with the construction with the option to add later at some point the landscape into the project. I would say that we have about probably a month to work out some of these questions, but I need to move forward because of the timing. I don't want to push this off until next season because I might need it the beginning of the next season. And we already know there's a need for this tank. We want to get it installed. We want to get it operational as soon as we can. And so I would hate to postpone it for another construction season based on dealing with this discussion with landscaping and look. I think we can reasonably come up with a grading plan that works, but when we dig that dirt, we're either hauling it off or we're keeping it on site. We're not keeping it on site and then hauling it off later because that's double dipping there. It takes a lot more money to do that. And so we will need to make some decisions right off the bat as far as what our final grading would be, and then we can work through a landscape type bid. Again, it's probably going to cost us a little bit to do that, but I think we can handle that and work with the neighbors to come up with a reasonable plan. But I do need to move forward on getting this tank under construction while we work through some of those deals.
it's an interesting discussion. So do we have a?
Well, can I make a recommendation? I think we get, and I would suggest 3 or 4 of the residents, not 10 of you, because decision-making, when we get a lot of people in the room, people that you want to have represent you and kind of be decision makers for your group. And I think we'll sit down, we'll have a map, we'll have a budget, we'll go over what the budget entails, and we'll start talking through options that if we're going to take money from here and we want to do this different and maybe save money here, we can now use the money here. And we can sit down and sometime in the next 7 days, I think, have our first meeting and see if we can get to some place where.
Say 14.
Within the next 14, okay, for Marty's schedule, in the next 14 days to have that so that we can maybe draw some conclusions. We might be able to get to where we need to be and bid it all at the same time. That would be ideal. And if we can't quite get there, then maybe we'll divide it up and do a little bit of the landscaping separate. But let us take a crack at it. We'll have me, Tina, Dion, and Marty, city representatives, and then whoever they designate. Let's get together and see.
So maybe can I ask a favor? Maybe those can follow maybe Marty out into the outer halls here and give them your email, exchange information. We can get going on it.
Maybe I recommend that the Clarks, you guys have got my email, I've got yours. If you could work with your neighbors and just come up with who those are and just send me an email, then we can work it that way. They might need some time to determine who is the right representatives from their neighborhood. So, and that we've got a contact there that they can just make with me.
So Mark, before we let you escape, pull it back up here to the council and see if there's any conversations or questions. So.
Love it. Sounds like a great plan, Scott. Thanks.
I've just kind of been quiet listening. So, my job as a council member, I feel, is safety first. The idea of an open tank just terrifies me because you just don't know what's going to happen. I'd prefer cement, but I know with budget restraints, that's maybe not an option. Personally, I like the wrought iron better than the vinyl. Maybe we're just getting into splitting hairs. I like the openness. I know it's a bit more, but I also know wrought iron is less maintenance than vinyl, especially over time as it fades. It can get holes punched in it, whatnot. I like the idea of exploring selling the lots for extra funding. Carl, I don't know if this is what you're talking about, is but stone, like putting stone on the actual outside of the tank. Is that what you're referring to, or not? Or did I misunderstand
Marty
you?
suggested stucco on the outside of the tank.
Just
Okay.
stucco, but
Probably
for
wouldn't
rocks,
go to-
just on the out around.
Okay. Shortening the fence line around the tank, I thought that was a great idea. I try and put myself in your position. Would I want this in my backyard? If it's necessary, it's going to go in, but as a resident, I just try and put myself in your situation and how would I want this to look and how is it going to affect my neighborhood forever? I mean, this isn't a temporary thing. This is a permanent tank, and so I think we should do it right. And if it means a little bit more time splitting it to two, I think that's the most appropriate way to go because this is your neighborhood and it doesn't sound like any of you are leaving anytime soon, which we are grateful for. But we want to make sure that you can live with this for a very, very long time. And so that would be my vote, is putting it into two, getting the construction going on the tank, and then, you know, seeing what we can work out as far as landscaping and access and things like that. And worst case scenario is it doesn't work out, at least we've given the opportunity, but let's see if there's a chance there, because I think we do have enough window of time to make that happen. I would appreciate that as a resident, so.
Thank you. Anything else? Marty, thank you.
Welcome.
And if you can maybe go out, we'll excuse you
Oh,
for a few minutes.
we'll
right?
have the
Send you
clerks
email.
send some,
Oh, okay.
some names, or is that all right if we
Is that all right?
designate you
Okay.
guys as the lead?
Okay. Thank you,
And so we'll
Marty.
communicate with them.
Okay. All right. Now, I know most of you probably want to stay for the remainder of all our items, but we'll
I like this,
excuse-
like 20 items, so.
We'll excuse you. We'll take a few seconds here and let you escape.
Take just a break.
I think you just got like 2 citizenships in the community.
Getting citizenship in the world.
I smell Eagle Project.
Yeah.
Many, many.
I got one right here in Bell House.
Okay.
All right.
Yay, Eagles. Thanks, Marty. Wow. Doesn't anyone want to stay?
Scott. Okay.
We sort of want to stay.
All right. Thank you. All right. Moving on. 9A.
Yeah.
Public hearing to consider adoption of ordinance 2017-10, amending city section 10-15-47N, accessory apartments, interior access, modifying the provision regarding the required interior access between the main living area and the attached accessory apartment, allowing different types of access between the main dwelling and the attached accessory apartment. Director Young, you go. Oh, there you
Walking around.
go. Okay. Just preparing. Okay.
Gave away my chocolate kisses.
I ate mine.
Oh.
Have mine.
Those water drops.
Have a basket of peanuts down there someplace? Kathy, do we have peanuts down there somewhere? Or someplace?
Just a few. Now's the time to take the cashews out before they get down there.
We could have taken a potty.
That's better than nothing.
We can, if we take a, I don't like the word bio break, it just bugs me.
Wait,
How
what-
about, yeah, comfort break?
What did Ken just say? Did he say?
Sure, Ken, sure.
Well, let's at least go long enough to turn the page. Yeah, we're forcing you to bio.
Does anybody know the score of Pleasant Grove while we're sitting here? Anybody's
Boys
pulling that
or-
up?
Boys?
Boys basketball? Harriman? No one? What?
I've been watching it this week.
Have you really? I was going to say, what link is that?
Director Young.
I wouldn't doubt it, Scott. I know. And I wouldn't blame you either.
About a year ago,
mic on, Ken?
Yeah, I can't hear him.
Oh, no. Ken.
There you go.
Do I have to say all that over again?
No, go continue.
So we anticipated that the accessory apartments ordinance would need to be amended as we worked through the process in registering the apartments. One of our recent applicants for registering their apartments has a home where they live in the top and the basement is being rented out. However, there is no interior access between the two units. There used to be, but for the best use of the floor plan, it was eliminated. So he had a concern because currently in our ordinance, we require an interior access be maintained between the two units. The request was to amend the ordinance to allow for situations where proper egress can be determined through an inspection by the fire department, where this interior access would not need to be required. As we also review this further, there are situations where we have accessory apartments above a garage or in a separate building, and of course there is no interior access between the main dwelling unit and the accessory apartment in that situation. So we felt this was a good request, and the fire department did approve this language that we're proposing to be added on. So I'll just read the whole section there, the red verbiage being that which is suggested to be added in. And interior access. An interior access between the main living area and an attached accessory apartment must be maintained, comma, and the new verbiage says, unless sufficient means of egress have been determined during an inspection by the fire department. So we feel comfortable with this amendment. It allows for a greater opportunity and still covers the basic needs of health and safety. So.
Has this ever come before Planning Commission? Or
Yes.
Okay. What was-
Recently at the Planning Commission, and they recommended approval unanimously.
Any questions for Ken?
By the way, I really did enjoy how the staff report did actually include that, the planning commission.
Oh, the report of action, yeah, that is something new, and I'm glad you pointed that out, that we've decided to make as part of your staff report, the report of action of what actually happened at the Planning Commission.
And I loved it.
Thanks for that.
Any questions for Ken?
No.
Or if not, this is a public hearing. We'll open it up to the public. Those who'd like to comment, please come forward, state your name. And seeing none, we'll close the public comment, bring it back up here. Any further discussion?
Good move.
All right.
I had challenges, I had concerns about the original ordinance because of some of the restrictions, and this is an improvement, makes it less restrictive for the public. I'll make a motion, in fact, if there's no other discussion. I move that we adopt ordinance 2017-10, amending City Code Section 10-15-47N, accessory apartments interior access, modifying the provision regarding the required interior access between the main living area and an attached accessory apartment, allowing different types of access between the main dwelling and the attached accessory apartment, and adopting all the findings and conditions and conclusions of the staff report.
Second. Motion by Ben, a second by Lynn, by voice. Diana?
Yes.
Eric? Yes. Sid?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. Kathy, my signatures are going to be terrible, so forgive me.
Eric, are you going to cover it? Or do you want? I think.
gonna have
Are
the
you-
details.
Well, Marty's the one that needs to explain the budget amendment.
Why we need it.
He's out with the
He's out in
neighbors.
the hall.
Oh, here it comes.
Okay, yep.
Great timing, Marty. Okay. 9B, public hearing to receive comments on the proposed Pleasant Grove City fiscal year 2016-2017 budget amendment to reflect actual and anticipated expenditures in the amount of $140,568 for the vac truck decant facility project located approximately 400 north, 600 west. Director Beaumont, welcome back.
Thank you. We've had on the budget for a number of years proposed called the vac truck decant facility, essentially a facility that we can dump the vac truck. On the 7th of February, we approved the construction of what was the base bid of that project. It was $308,900, I believe, that was awarded to VanCon contractors. I can't do two things at once today. A lot of things going on. So, but what we wanted to consider here is when we bid this, we've kind of changed the concept of this design to something that we see as a much better usable design than what the original concept was when we worked out the budget. Before we were talking about something that had been done in Midvale and Sandy. Sandy and Riverton are the two that we went and looked at specifically. And we went and looked at those, and they essentially were much smaller facilities that essentially it got rid of the water, but then left kind of a mucky mess to clean up, and it was very small in nature. And so as we looked at that, we wanted to reconsider whether or not that was going to be the best option for us as far as a final design. Quick. And so we went and designed something that we thought was going to best fit our needs. And I'm trying to find my mouse here. And so what we awarded was essentially a 3-bay decant facility. And I just went and put this here on the map so you can kind of get a better idea of where that's going to sit with regards to the property boundaries. Again, the overall concept of the pipe plant, one day being a public works facility, parks facility, with discussions of existing buildings. I think the original discussion was, put something over on this side adjacent to the the power station. And as we looked at that, with the size that we felt that is needed to make sure that this thing's operational and good for the way that we would use that, we felt that we should move that more interior to the site, a little bit further away from the boundaries, would be shielded a little bit. You'll have a detention basin on the one side, public works building potentially here, and then this building's planned to remain as a parks building concept. This building right now would remain for a while. And so all of this kind of made for a nice location that we could do this. The one thing that we did is we wanted to see how far we could go with the $329,000 budget that was allocated there. So we designed, and in that design we put in there a base bid that we knew that we could get built, and then we put in 2 additive alternates. You can see the cross-hatched area here. So essentially there's 5 bays. There's a bay here to the south and a bay to the north that were the additive alternate in that bid. But the bid came in at $308,900 for the base bid, another $67,000 to get these 2 bays constructed. And so as we looked at that, we're just like, it makes sense for us to get this whole project completed now rather than do 3 bays now and then try to add later the other 2 additional bays. And they would be usable now as well. Right now, if we don't do the bays, we likely will just dig a hole out there for the water department because they can discharge into the ground because it's just water usually from a culinary pipe or secondary pipe that would just go into the ground. So if we don't do this right now, what we would do is we'll go dig a secondary hole that we would then discharge or dump the vac truck for the water fixes. The storm drain department would use the 3 bays mainly for the storm drain cleaning purposes. What we would propose is that we amend the budget as has been shown to you, and because they are water bays, they will be for the water department. We feel it would be wise to bring some money in from the water department. The Garden Drive project that we had was it was under budget, probably in the range of about $150,000. We felt that would be one of the existing budgets that we have in our 2017 budget to reallocate some of the funding that was planned for that water project and bring it in so that we could get this project done. There's also a proposed $50,000 coming from what we call the pipe plant demolition project, which is kind of just on-site demolition of some of the buildings and trees and things of that nature, pushing some dirt around. And we felt like we had some budget there to be able to pull $50,000 of that so that we can get this entire project completed and more usable for us in the way that we would use that. So there's the explanation and the reason for the request.
Quick question, Marty. That demolition project, is that going on now? Is that currently ongoing? I've had a lot of questions about what's happening out on the pipe plant right now. Are there volunteers out there? What's going on?
It's just volunteer work right now. That they're pushing a little bit of dirt around, trying to clean up some of the willows. John, anything more that could be said on that? That it's Guy Fugel's doing it. So I don't think that's he's out there pushing some around with a little equipment that he has. So we've talked with him about it, and he says it's something he enjoys doing. So, but right now, no, there is not a project, Ben, that we're foreseeing right now, that we're going to let out to bid to demo those buildings. If you remember in past budgets, there was a $500,000 budget to come in and level the site, get rid of all the buildings, and kind of clean it up. And at this point, we didn't feel like we needed to do that, but we feel like we could clean it up a little bit around, and that's why we left the $250,000 in the project for complaints, and if we needed to get on there and do something, we haven't decided to do any specific project at this time.
Is that volunteer effort though helping to save some of the money that we can allocate here, or is it?
Absolutely. I mean, the work that's being done is work that would have to be done in a demolition project. So there's some huge value for that, and we do actually appreciate the way that it's looking out there. It's looking a lot nicer, and he's done a great job.
Are you gonna burn? Are you just gonna burn the trees and stuff?
I don't know that we've come up with a plan yet, John. On the trees, the pos.
That'd be fun.
There's your volunteer for you.
Actually, let's have the fire department do something with it.
They'll want to put it out. We don't want them there.
So.
Because it's a heavy residential area, we may not burn it.
That's true.
It should also be noted that we've done quite a bit of our own work on this site. We've installed a water line that will provide water to the site, and we've installed a sewer line, and that's some increased costs that we also have worked into this overall budget. We've had to design those and construct them. We've done the construction ourselves and paid for the materials out of here. So anyways, that's why the amount that we're requesting is $140,000. It's a little more than the $67,000. It's to accommodate what we've got into the site right now.
Any other questions for Marty? It's a public hearing, so if not, we'll open it up to the public at this time. No one? All right. At this time, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back up here. Any further discussion? Before we move on to 10A and take action. Okay. All right, 10A, to consider adoption of Resolution 2017-09 to reflect the actual anticipated expenditures, the amount of $140,568 for the VAC truck decamp facility project located at approximately 400 North, 600 West, with the funding $90,568 move from the Garden Drive Waterline project to new decant facility. It's spelled wrong in here. Is that decant?
It's decant.
Decant.
Okay. Spelling here. I don't know if we should consider it anymore.
The resolution's right.
In the water fund, and $50,000 moved from pipe plant. Is this demolition? Is it demotion?
Yeah.
Okay. Demolition project to decamp facility project in the stormwater fund and providing for effective date.
You making the motion?
No, this is 10A. Now we're back to Marty. Same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I've explained it all.
9B was just
Oh.
a public hearing. And
Okay, got it. This is the action.
same thing. Any other comments for Marty?
So, Now do I have to read it again now that he just read it?
Yeah, make a motion.
Say as read.
You have to make a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve, no, that we adopt Resolution 2017-09 and as read by our Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion by Diana, do we have a second?
Second. Go ahead, Ben.
We'll give it to Lynn, I guess.
Only fair.
That's right.
Thank you, Marty.
Well, you have to.
Oh,
we
by
have
Oh,
to
voice.
sorry, I
approve.
got to get a little ahead of myself, sorry.
Take a vote.
By voice, Diana,
Yes.
Eric, yes, Sid,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
and Lynn.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, 10B, continued item, and welcome, Daniel. To consider adoption of Resolution 2017-05, authorizing the Mayor Pro Tem to sign a development agreement with Valley Grove LLC regarding the commercial subdivision project and an on-site stormwater detention facility located at approximately 2093 West Pleasant Grove Boulevard and providing for Tina.
All right, Mayor and Council, you may or may not be aware that the Grove Tower project is located in the interchange district of the Grove Zone. And in that area, we have had historically problems with making sure that we have retained the amount of stormwater that needs to be retained. In the past, we had planned on developing a regional detention facility there. St. John Properties has graciously agreed to construct a stormwater detention facility on their property, which will handle some of the excess that the city needs to handle in the area and also handle the required stormwater runoff from their proposed development. The development agreement that's in front of you just outlines the terms and conditions of that agreement. The developer will be responsible to pay for the costs of installing the facility. That once the facility has been constructed and accepted by the city, then that facility will be dedicated to the city and the city will own it. The developer will continue to maintain the landscaping in the area. The city will be responsible to maintain the actual facility and any infrastructure, making sure that it continues to operate pursuant to its design standards. I think it's pretty straightforward. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Tina?
We have all the access rights we need to do that maintenance.
Yes.
If no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2017-05, authorizing the Mayor Pro Tem to sign a development agreement with Valley Grove LLC regarding a commercial subdivision project and an on-site stormwater detention facility located at approximately 2093 West Pleasant Grove Boulevard, and providing for an effective date.
Motion by Diana, do we have a second? Ben. You by voice, Diana,
Yes.
Eric, yes, Sid,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
and Lynn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just reiterate an appreciation for St. John Properties for doing this. This is an issue we've been dealing with, trying to get resolved, and through them making this part of their project and expanding it is really a good thing for the city. So,
Daniel, I'm
thank you.
sorry, I could have asked you to come up and address if you wanted to. I totally left you out, my fault, sorry.
I really don't want to talk about stormwater, but I have a public announcement. So hot off the printer, this is a purchase and sell agreement for a restaurant. So we're trying.
That's more than trying, thank you. I just wish everyone else was still here.
I know. It's on
and-
the other side?
Yes.
Okay.
It's still in Valley Grove. It's the
Yes.
same project.
Yes.
Yes.
When
They-
when
they
do
got
we find
access?
out who?
When you find out who, I can tell you, R&R Barbecue.
Get
Best-
out.
Just
Pick
ranked the 9th best restaurant in the state of Utah. So they cracked the top 10. You know, kind of I don't say it's a quaint model, but you know,
Yeah.
micro brew and just good food, really good food.
Good people.
It's great people. It's
They're
not done
they're
yet,
local people.
but-
Well, they're just, what are they? Alpine Highland. I think they're local people.
It's
so it's a
great,
good thing.
yeah. So the group that our deal is with is 4 Foods Group. They recently bought R&R, so it's the same group that's developed all of the Neaters, pretty much.
And they catered the police dinner the other night.
R&R did?
Yeah.
It's great food.
It was very, very good.
And I think we need to recognize Ken's tie. How incredible is that?
It represents the water we're talking about tonight.
What is incredible?
I like it. I like it.
Just be what you believe.
And I don't want to take up too much of your time, but the appreciation is mutual that Scott expressed. I know Tina and Marty spent quite a bit of time trying to expedite this to not hold up, you know, our development, and so it's been mutually beneficial for everyone. And you are in the presence of a high-profile individual. I was out in.
We can do this in private.
I was in Kemmer, Wyoming this weekend at my in-laws, and I pick up the Kemmer Gazette, and nothing but praise for Scott Darrington. I think you guys know he went out there and was a keynote speaker, I believe, at a workshop for their staff and their council, and it was all the buzz in Kemmer this week.
Sure was. Not a whole lot to talk about in Kemmer.
We'd like to maybe hold on to that.
You want to go ahead and sign that? We can frame it.
This is going to Scott. Actually, I have one. Did Marty's back there? Related, and this is related to the regional detention facility. So my phone has been ringing with the neighbors, trying to figure out kind of what's happening, and I have very gently just kept my lips quiet. They can go to the public record or talk to you guys or
They
Marty.
gave me a phone call today, so we're in contact and working
perfect.
through issues. Yeah.
So I know they're wanting me to kind of get in the middle of some of it, and I've deferred. So
I think that's appropriate.
yeah, thanks.
Daniel, we know that people would like to hear about this announcement. Is it okay? I mean,
I probably shouldn't have made it. It's not done. It's not even signed. It like literally just we agreed to terms yesterday, and they sent me the purchase and sale agreement, and I've got my purple pen marking it up. So, but yeah, they came to DRC.
Looking for access.
Well, they had a lot of issues. I didn't know they were going to DRC, and so there were a lot of things that weren't accounted for, and they have since been addressed with them, and we'll make sure that what they're designing is outside of setbacks and outside of easements, and so we kind of gave them a line and said, you can design on the other side of this. So, but yeah.
So exciting. I think we need to hold on to that paper, though.
This is going to go to Mr. Darrington.
Thank you, Daniel.
The Kemmer Gazette.
Anytime you're dealing with a gazette.
When I left, I walked out with the lady who wrote the article, and we had a conversation. So, yeah,
Did she pay? Yeah.
it must have worked. Whatever.
Funny though that Daniel got a hold of that.
Well, so the full story is Daniel's wife is from Kemmer. And so when I was asked to go do that, I texted Daniel. I said, I need some street cred in Kemmer. What's the name of your wife? Are your in-laws still there? And they are.
Yes, they are.
So I dropped their names when I was there, and people perked up, and all of a sudden I was an insider in Kemmer. So it worked just great.
What's the population of Kemmer?
About 2,500, was it 2,600 on the sign? I can't remember when I was driving in town. Yeah, Diamondville's another 700. So.
Wow. Okay.
My first job was in Afton, Wyoming, which is in the same county, and it kind of brought me back to and I grew up in Wyoming, so it was fun. It was a good time.
Well done, Scott.
All right. 10C, to consider adoption of Resolution 2017-010, indicating the intent of Pleasant Grove City to adjust the common boundary with the city of Cedar Hills, property located approximately 728 west, 4000 north, Pleasant Grove, Utah, parcel, I need to read the parcel. Okay, parcel is listed and providing for effective date. Tina.
So Mayor and Council, just some background. A petition or request for a mutual boundary adjustment between the city of Cedar Hills and Pleasant Grove was filed by Dennis and Carla Thane. The map on the board should give you a general idea of where it's located. It's basically off of 4000 North in the Manila neighborhood. And Mr. Thane has a parcel of property that's 0.574 acres. And it's a little bit challenging to develop. It currently is within the municipal boundaries of Cedar Hills. However, there's no access onto a public street in Cedar Hills. Mr. Thane would like to have the opportunity to develop the parcel in the future. The only access that he has is through the city of Pleasant Grove. I believe that Cedar Hills has already considered and adopted a mirroring resolution declaring their intent to adjust the boundaries. And the resolution also provides for a public hearing and a final ordinance approving the boundary adjustment for April the 18th of 2017. Do you have any questions about this?
Can I just add, if this came before you a few months back,
Right.
and initially when Dennis came, he was asking for a flag lot.
Right.
There's the access right there. That's 4000 north there. So that's the flag lot. And we deferred that discussion, and you requested that we went back to Cedar Hills. Dennis represented that Cedar Hills would not boundary adjust them. And when we talked to Cedar Hills, they said, no, we're fine. We'll do a boundary adjustment. So now it's back in our court. And what you're doing is just talking about your intent.
One of a two-step
Yeah.
process.
You're not committing to that, just the intent to look at it. So part of that is we'd have to bring this back and discuss a flag lot because it is longer than what the ordinance allows as far as that's concerned. So you'll see that. And then we also have to amend our annexation plan to account for this too. So there's a couple things going on besides the boundary adjustment.
So in all of Pleasant Grove's utilities are in that cul-de-sac?
No, so there's sewer and water here. So there's the flag lot, there's a home there, and then this is just a vacant lot.
Right, but I'm saying in that cul-de-sac, what is it, Sven? Is it?
This
I know-
cul-de-sac here?
It's a Monson.
No, so the utilities are gonna be accessed off of 4000.
Oh, okay, so he's not gonna access them from the,
Well, there's not a way to
Oh.
get sewer from here to here.
oh.
Well, there
He-
has been a way.
So he has installed,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, is this one of the lots that he's already installed the stubs, the laterals?
Yes.
So he went to the expense a long time ago of installing the laterals to this piece of property, anticipating that he would be connecting to 4000 North. And now that we have a sewer line in there, it just makes sense for him to keep connecting that way because he's already installed the laterals that are necessary.
So we're just,
Is this lot a participant then in the agreement that was
It-
in lieu of the special-
It'll be added, yes.
He'll be added.
And he'd have to pay the developer rate.
Any other
It's coming into
questions?
Pleasant Grove from Cedar Hills.
Yes, it's coming in. And what Scott was mentioning is similar to what you did a couple weeks ago on the property up on the hill. Our annexation declaration policy plan currently did not include that lot because it was already in Cedar Hills. So we need to amend that. That will probably happen in March. And then in April, on the 17th or 18th, will be the public hearing where we'll finalize the boundary adjustment.
okay.
Okay.
So we're just intenting.
You're just declaring your intent and giving everyone notice, and then they'll have an opportunity to come and speak at the public hearing in April.
Any other questions? Now I'll entertain a motion.
All right.
Oh, go ahead, Dinah.
Okay. I make a motion that we adopt resolution 2017-010, indicating the intent of Pleasant Grove City to adjust the common boundary with the city of Cedar Hills, located approximately 728 West, 4000 North, Pleasant Grove, Utah, parcel 140020133, and providing for an effective date.
Motion by Diana. Do I have a second?
Second.
That's it. By voice. Diana.
Yes.
Eric, yes. Sid?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Lynn? Yes. You? You're ready.
I'm ready to go home. Let's get going.
All right, 10D, to consider adoption ordinance 2017-11, repealing and rescinding the public safety impact fee schedule included in ordinance 2002-13, and ordinance fixing and prescribing a policy for establishing impact fees for public safety services provided by Pleasant Grove City within the citywide service area and providing for an effective date.
If you remember last year, we had Lewis, Young, Robertson, and Birmingham come in to discuss the updating of our police and fire impact fees. One of the comments they made at the time was if we do a general obligation bond, then the people that will be using the facility will be paying for it over the 20-year life of the bond. If we were to charge an impact fee on top of that, then in essence, that would be double charging them. So they recommended that if we got a GO bond passed, that we rescind our police and fire impact fee. And we just got funded last week, so we're requesting that it get rescinded tonight. And the process of doing that is Tina went back, and in 2002, when we adopted our police and fire impact fee, we also did a few other impact fees at the same time. So we're just going to repeal a part of that ordinance, which is the fee schedule that specifically outlines police and fire impact fees. And so what that will do is any development that we have moving forward will not be charged that fee. They will help pay for the station via their property tax over the next 20 years. Any questions?
So Scott, when you first mentioned this to us, I had a few questions about whether there might not be some other facility we might want to build, some other, whether it's a burn tower or whatever, a training facility of some kind, some extra structure for whatever purposes that might benefit from the impact fees. Rather than rescind the ordinance, does it make sense to collect the fees and then just return them if 6 years transpire? I mean, how complicated is that process of returning fees that we don't?
We only have so many years to do this.
Yeah,
right?
you have 6 years from collection. And generally, no, we wouldn't recommend collecting. I mean, that's developer money that we would collect and then turn around. I'm assuming we have to pay interest on that as well.
Yeah.
And it is quite a process in order to do that. So it's possible if that was a policy choice from the city council. I think from staff, I don't think we'd recommend that course of action. It can be used for facilities or for like a ladder truck. We already have a ladder truck. I don't think we would need a second ladder truck to accommodate our growth. And so as we looked at it, at least staff, we didn't see a facility that would make sense for us to keep collecting the fee.
Tina?
I was just going to add that the statute requires us to assess the fee based on a study, which includes a facility plan, right? We have to say this is what we're going to use it for and calculate the percentage that could be attributed to new growth. We don't have that in place. So the current impact fee is being assessed based on the facility study that was done back then for new facilities. We're getting the new facilities. So if we wanted to think about another type of facility that we could use an impact fee for, we would need to identify that facility up front, do a study, assess what portion share would be attributed to new growth, and enact a new impact fee.
Yeah, and that's something we could do at any time, I guess, to answer that question. If we decide there is a facility we want to build, then we just go back through the process. I mean, we needed to update it anyway. Right. The cost was $12,000 to update it. So we put the brakes on that because we knew that if the bond passed, we didn't want to spend the $12,000 and then not be able to use the impact fee. So in the future, if we sit down and say, you know what, here's a facility we want to build that's, I mean, if it's just fire only, a fire tower, then that would just be a fire impact fee. We'd go through the analysis and the study and bring it back to you for approval.
Can't leave the police out. Could be a shooting range, right? Yeah.
Shooting range into the tower.
Yeah, well, we.
Let's not get too crazy.
Whatever it is, we have to make sure it is compliant with state law. And so I know it says facilities, but there might be limitations on that. So, but if we get to a point where that's something we want to pursue, we can sit down and look at that further.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay.
Looks like you're up again.
I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2017-11, repealing and rescinding the public safety impact fee schedule included in ordinance 2002-13, an ordinance fixing and prescribing a policy for establishing impact fees for public safety services provided by Pleasant Grove City within the citywide service area and providing for an effective date.
Motion by Diana. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. Second by Lynn. By voice. Diana.
Yes.
Eric, yes. Sid?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
The one we've been waiting for, 10E, to consider adoption of Resolution 2017-011, authorizing the mayor to sign a lease agreement with Mountain Land Head Start Incorporated for real property located at 485 West, 220 South, Suite 100, Pleasant Grove, Utah, providing for effective date. Director Giles Dion.
Council, the Mountain Land Head Start lease, the modular building that was put in phase 2 of Shannon Field. They run a daycare out of, or not a daycare, sorry, a preschool out of that. Their lease is up in May, and they are wanting to renew it again this year. So we've taken a look at it, and pretty much what we've changed is a few names because some of their leadership has changed, and so has ours, and then the dates. So as far as the maintenance and that type of thing on the building, they do everything. We maintain the irrigation system at a very minimal, and they maintain the property and the building itself. So they do help us out quite a bit down there.
Is that a United Way thing?
No, it's a Mountain Land.
So it is just their own entity? They're not
Well, they're part of
affiliated?
MAG.
Okay.
It's similar to Meals on Wheels.
Okay, got it.
Low income preschool type thing.
Is that it?
That's
Any
it.
questions?
So we didn't assess any changes to the rent.
No.
Do we have any statutory obligation to do any kind of comparative open free market analysis as to whether this is a fair rent?
You know, we had that discussion, and with the nature of what this business is, we decided as staff to leave the rent at what it was. It is, it's preschool for low-income families, and like I said, as staff, we just looked at it and said we're okay to, financially, I think we're okay just to keep charging what we're charging, but there is nothing statutorily that says we need to study that. If
All
the
the-
council wants us to go back and renegotiate a price, we can do that.
All the improvements, the playground, the sidewalk, everything they've installed. I mean, the city really hasn't paid for any of those improvements on that property. So they lease the property where they own a building there also, and they just lease. That's part of the lease is that property that they have that building. They have a maintenance man. He takes care of everything. So we really don't spend a lot of time there.
Wait, so they own the building?
They own one of the two buildings. The city
Okay.
owns the other one.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I would love to make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2017-11, authorizing the mayor to sign a lease agreement with Mountain Land Head Start for real property located at 485 West, 220 South, Suite 100, Pleasant Grove, Utah, and providing for an effective date.
Motion by Diana. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sid. My voice, I'm going to mix it up. Ben?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Eric, yes. Diana?
Yes.
Sid?
Yes.
Can I just make a comment? I worked closely with Dion on this, and he was super creative in coming up with the solution on that, so.
I felt the creativity.
Swapping out a few names.
By the way, how long is that agreement?
5 years.
Kathy, I have a question. On the first signature has Mayor Pro Tem, on the next one has Mayor Daniels. You want me to leave that alone for him? Okay. Sign it? Okay. Moving right along, 10F, to consider adoption of Resolution 2017-012, authorizing the Mayor Pro Tem to declare a 2015 Ford F-150 truck, 3 2006 Explorers, 1 2005 Escape, 1 2005 Explorer, and Biblioteca ELO computer, wow, library, okay, computer as surplus, and direct that they be disposed of according to the city's policy for disposing of property surplus and providing for effective date. Dion?
I forgot this was up next. So we have the F-150. We're looking at selling that and then turning around and purchasing a newer model. So mileage is low, it's in good shape, and we're hoping we can get out of it what we need to. So,
Chief?
5 of those vehicles are the police department's. 4 they're all over 10 years old. They're not in the best of shape, and they need to go. So our plans with those would be to use, we've used I believe it's TNT auctions in the past, and we would just take those up, and the money would go back into our vehicle lease program.
Awesome, okay. Sherry, do you want to get in on this, on the library portion?
The computer died.
It died, okay.
Does it have any value anymore?
No.
There's not a value, but we need to remove it from
From
fixed
fixed
assets,
assets.
and so we're going to declare it surplus.
I love that it's Latin.
It's a cool company, yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have a motion? Besides Diana.
I'll make the motion that we adopt Resolution 2017-12, authorizing the Mayor Pro Tem to declare a 2015 Ford F-150 truck, 3 2006 Explorers, 1 2005 Escape, 1 2005 Explorer, and a Biblioteca ELO computer as surplus, and directing that they be disposed of according to the city's policy for disposing of surplus property and providing for an effective date.
Motion by Ben, a second.
Second. Oh.
I'm going to give it to Sid. Okay. By voice, Sid?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Eric, yes. Diana?
Yes.
And Sid has a request.
Hey, Dion, can you be super creative and just kind of turn down that air just like a little bit? Kind of cold. Thank you. So much.
We're watching. Okay. 10G, to consider awarding for the fiscal year 2016-17 sewer rehab project bid to C&L Water Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $282,369 for base bid A, base bid B, additive alternates 2 and 5. Am I getting everything? And additive alternate 4 in the amount of $6,048. Director Beaumont.
Okay. This is our normal in situ form liner project that we do every year. Right now, we did a couple of additive alternates to make sure that we could utilize all the funding in that budget. Right now, we're recommending to do the base bid A, B, and additive alternates 2 and 5. And then what we'd find is if there's budget allowed, there are 2 other additive alternates. There's a 4 and another one that we'd come back through a change order process and get that approved. So that was just kind of letting you know that we would like to get as much of the bid project done as budget would allow. We have $300,000 in that budget, and we've got some engineering costs and things in there as well. But right now we're recommending to award up through the $282,369.
Price is still going down.
You know, this one's a little bit unique, Lynn. This is actually the cured in place UV liner rather than your standard in situ form.
Okay.
And so this one was more expensive because we're dealing with groundwater and live lines when we do this type of a cured in place.
Marty, you mentioned the storm project that.
Yes,
the council's
part
aware
of that, this base bid B, we put in there the Manila Park issue where we've had root intrusion into a 10-inch groundwater line. We've now installed a clean out manhole kind of in the middle of the park. Before it was 700 feet between manholes, or 800 or so. We've put now in an extra access manhole, and we need to line between the two manholes. So the base bid B of this project is to do that lining on a storm drain pipe that is being financed through our storm drain special projects budget that we have.
Pipe?
It's a 10-inch pipe. It's an HDPE perforated pipe that's got lots of roots in it. So those roots will be cut out, and then we'll line that pipe so we won't get root intrusion any further.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make the motion, if I might, to consider awarding the 2016-17 rehab project bid to CNL Water Solutions. The amount of $282,369. Alternates 2 and 5, and additive alternate number 4 in the amount of
Let's hold off on the last, strike that last piece. We don't want to award the $6,048 at this time.
and management $6,000 out.
All right, we have a motion by Lynn. Do we have a second?
Second on the amended motion.
Second by Ben. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Voice.
No voice on this one.
What? Oh, we're just, okay.
All right, 10H, to consider the adoption of Resolution 2017-013, authorizing the Mayor Pro Tem to sign a quick claim deed transferring 33,271 square feet piece of real property to David and Lisa Flinders, which will be transferred back to Pleasant Grove City by warranty deed, property located at approximately 482 West, 3300 North, and providing for effective date.
Say quit claim, right? Not quit claim.
That's what.
It's a quit claim deed, QUIT. Oh, it says it correctly there, so I just wanted to make sure. We received I believe a couple years ago, we vacated a plat that was owned by David Flinders. He owned this home and a couple of parcels here. And when we vacated that plat, we vacated all the way to his boundaries, which included a little piece here that has now been constructed, as you can see more closely on this file. So the road has now been constructed up into that property in anticipation of building of a home on that parcel. And he was required to deed us this property. What he did is he came in and he deeded it back in September, but he did it by quit claim deed, which we have to receive a warranty deed for transfer of property. So in order for him to be able to warranty deed that property to us, we have to quit claim it back to him so that he can then warranty it to us. And then we get it by the proper process. So he moved forward on something before we were aware of it. And we just need to get the proper process there. So we need to quit claim this so he can deed it back to us.
I don't know what you just said, but I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Warranty deed comes with 6 different specific warranties under law that
Any
are
questions
much better than a quick claim deed.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions for Marty before Sid makes a motion? Okay, go ahead, Sid.
I make the motion to adopt resolution 2017-013, authorizing the Mayor Pro Tem to sign a quit claim deed transferring a 3,271 square foot piece of real property to David and Lisa Flinders, which will be transferred back to Pleasant Grove City by warranty deed.
Motion by Sid. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Ben. By voice, Lynn?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Eric, yes. Diana?
Yes.
Sid?
Yes.
Oh, I see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I'm just push number 1.
Let's see, 10H, to consider approval of a 4-lot final subdivision plat called Banks Subdivision located at approximately 495 East, 1100 North in the R18 Single Family Residential Zone. Big Spring. I'm surprised the Banks are not here. They've been through so much.
Tony's here for representing them.
Okay.
The engineer.
Now, who has, do you have the other remote?
You did.
Okay, so this is the example of the smallest type of plat, subdivision plat you will be seeing into the future. We have not yet passed an ordinance that will change the minor subdivision plat category from the others. So in other words, 3 and under is what will be approved administratively. This one has 4, so this will be the smallest of that type that you will be seeing. It's a very simple subdivision found on the corner of 500 East and 1100 North, showing in the R18 zone, and the 4 lots proposed there. Just take that property, divide it into 4, all within the requirements of the zone. Basic 4-lot plat. Now the difference with this one that makes it a little bit different is that they have proposed a change, an amendment, so approval of the preliminary plat also came with the recommendation from the Planning Commission that our vicinity plan be changed to allow for this type of subdivision. Now, what you see on the screen right now is the existing vicinity plan of the city, where it would show the connection of a roadway going right through that property, right in through here. The proposed new vicinity plan creates a cul-de-sac at this location rather than the roadway going all the way through. It was determined the traffic change would not be substantial or significant enough to warrant a concern. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of the vicinity plan change with the preliminary plat approval. So they have approved that plat, and staff recommends approval of the final plat. Questions?
Any questions? We're really lively tonight, Ken, so we'll take a motion.
Get through it faster.
I would love to. I make a motion that we approve. Wait, does anybody want to talk, or?
Well, sounds like you're going.
Just out a quick question. So do we need to do a separate action to change the vicinity map or no?
No, it's actually a part of the Planning Commission procedure with the preliminary plat. So we just bring it up to show you what has been proposed and approved. So.
Got it. Thanks. Go ahead, Diana.
All right, I move that we approve a 4-lot final subdivision plat called Banks Subdivision, located at approximately 495 East, 1100 North in the R18 Single Family Residential Zone, Big Springs.
Motion by Nana, second.
Yep, second.
Ben, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
We're gonna finish strong.
J, to consider approval of a 4-lot final plat called Woodgate Subdivision located approximately 298 North, 100 East in the R18 Single Family Residential Zone. Little Denmark, this is my
hood.
Okay, so just off of 100 East here, we've got 1 acre parcel that has been just a large, deep lot for quite some time. And so this area is now being proposed to be divided up into a flag lot subdivision. The red lines here show the proposed new street in the frontage and the access stem that will go back and serve the back 3 lots and provides also for a turnaround. There you can see the lots subdivided more clearly. And all of these lots do meet the minimum lot size requirement for the zone.
So this is the, what's our ranger station? What's that called?
The
Tim?
Forest Service.
Forest Service.
Ranger Station sounded cool though. There we go. Okay.
So that's just directly to the north. North.
It'd be just, yeah, two to the north there.
Okay.
Isn't that the Ranger?
Right. So 2 lots south. Yeah.
Wait, what did I say? Isn't it Ranger Station?
Everybody was saying the same thing.
Okay.
Just giving you a hard time.
Ranger Station's good.
We have any questions for Ken?
Access. Marty's not here. Never mind. Okay.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I make the motion that we approve a 4-lot final plat called Woodgate Subdivision located approximately 298 North, 100 East in the R18 single-family residential zone.
Motion by Sid, the second.
Second.
Lynn, second by Lynn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wow. Okay, so one of our last items is 11A to discuss voting by mail. City elections.
Thank you. There's a couple things that are driving this. We had a request from I think a council member or
Diana.
two, I don't remember, that we have this discussion. But it also happened to coincide with the county who has approached the cities, and they want to go to one specific way to do elections. Some cities right now have vote by mail, and some, which we have done in the past, has contracted with them to use their electronic voting equipment. They, for the 2017 upcoming municipal elections, would like it to be somewhat standard. So they're asking the cities what their preference is as far as that's concerned. And I forgot to print off the email, but there's a list of cities that have already committed to the vote by mail.
So they want one, not either or.
Yes.
Well, I think their
I like that.
technology is old. Their machines are
Oh.
past their.
What they're seeing is the trend is most cities are going vote by mail. And so when they do the vote by mail, there's a different way to count those as opposed to the electronic ballots. So they want to standardize it on their end. They want input from the cities. Because if they decide to go vote by mail and we choose not to do that, then we just hold our own municipal election. And then when they do the general type stuff for next year for the county offices and
It's going
things,
to be vote by mail anyway.
it'll probably be vote by mail, if that's what they choose. And like I said, they're trending that way because Orem, Lehigh, some of these larger communities have already made that switch. So I want to talk a little bit about what the county has proposed, and then a little bit on some of the impacts of vote by mail to a community. So what it is vote by mail is those that are registered voters will receive a ballot in the mail. The postage is paid for by us as the city for them to receive it and then also for them to return it. Now they can, there's a drop box, they can drive it by the county and they can drop their vote by mail, their ballot in a drop box, or they can just put it back in the mail and have it go back. Now one of the options that's available to us is if we decide to go vote by mail, we still have an option of having one location in Pleasant Grove to come on election day and for people to vote. We also have the option to say, we're not going to do that, and if you are going to vote, it needs to be the vote by mail. So if we choose to have one polling location in our community, it would be with the electronic voting, and that would be, we'd have to pick whatever location that we'd want to do that. But there would be an additional charge to what I'm going to explain to you as far as costs are concerned. So one of the things right now, we pay roughly $20,000 to do our elections. This will double our costs more than, a little bit more than double. Right now, the cost estimate is at about $42,000 for us to do vote by mail. So financially, it is more of a cost. What other communities have found is it increases their participation. So the communities that have chosen to do this, that's the number one thing that they cite is we've chosen to do this because we get better participation.
Scott, does the cost go up even more if we still have one location?
Yes. And so we don't know exactly what that is. Kathy and I were estimating it to be like another $3,000. So maybe $45,000 total. Personally, I think we might want to have that as we transition, if we decide to go vote by mail, to transition to that. And some people just might not be catching on what's going on. And so they get to election day, and if their only option was to fill out that ballot and mail it back in, they might have missed that. And so if we do have a polling location, at least for a couple of years as we would transition that, then we can do that.
And are all cities paying for the full postage?
Yes.
They are?
Yeah. Yeah, the process, they want to be universal for all cities. The only cost increase are just by number of residents. So Orem's going to pay more because they have, 2 or 3 times the residents.
And so this amount is based off our number of registered voters right now?
Yeah, so they give us a number, $128 per active voter for the primary election, $1.28 per active voter.
Right.
Let me restate
$1 million
that, strike that from the
ballot.
record. $1.28 per active voter for the primary election. For the general election, it's $1.36 per active voter. And then they give us a list of, they added 10% as to what our registered voters are and in anticipation of that coming up. So this is an anticipated number, but it's going to be pretty close to that. It is just a cost estimate. The county's requested that they have an answer from us, was it early April, I believe, whether we're going to decide to do vote by mail. I think if we choose not to, they're just going to, at that point, turn it over to us, and we're going to run our own elections, which we've done years ago, a few years back.
But if that's the case, we don't have the electronic voting, correct?
That we won't have electronic, it goes back to paper ballots.
We're going back in time.
Yes, yep.
So, I don't know, I watched this go last 2 years with Orem, and I just seen the success that they've had, the turnout. Now, they did even have a little thing set up for those who still want their sticker, right? They could still come
Still
in,
get your sticker.
show it, drop it in, they get a sticker, right? Or we can attach a sticker to the envelope or the card, but they showed, sorry, I didn't bring it, but they provided me the percentages increase. It was pretty good.
Yeah, let me give you some numbers. And, just one other thing. So one of the things, if you do vote by mail, you don't do early voting at that point because this is replacing the early voting. There is some concerns that fraud and things like that. Most of the research has shown that fraud is generally not an issue when it comes to the vote by mail. And so there are, and I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll get to the pros and cons here in a second. So the Utah League of Cities and Towns, in conjunction with a couple other entities, did some research on this back in 2013. At that point, there was 19 communities that were doing vote by mail. And so Orem's not listed on here, and Lehigh, and I know that they have since done that. So 19 was the list in 2013. They said that all 19 cities said that they had an increased turnout with the vote by mail. So now they gave me specific numbers for some of the cities. West Jordan had an increase of 14% turnout to 35% turnout. So that's a 150% increase. Moroni, which is a smaller community, went from 30% to 62%, so that was a 106% increase. And then there was one more, Riverdale went from 24% turnout to 47%, so almost 100% increase. So those were just 3. I'm assuming, and I don't have the data, that there were other cities that were probably not quite that high where their percentage doubled. But they did say that every community saw an increase. And so that would be one of the upsides, I think, as far as if we're going to expend these funds, that we would get a higher turnout.
So does this price also include primary voting?
Yes, that's all. So that's, if we don't have a general election, that price almost cuts in half. Or sorry, a primary election, then that almost cuts in half. If we do have a primary, then the full cost is going to be around $42,000. So we're assuming that we're going to have a primary.
Those get mailed back to the county,
Uh-huh.
and the county counts those all up, so then what's our real time like on election night?
So on election night, and maybe Kathy can answer this better than I can, but they collect them as they come in. I don't know, do they wait and just count them that day? I'm not sure exactly.
The-
The early voting stuff, if you followed the elections, when the polls close at 8 o'clock, the county has the early voting results like 10 minutes later. And so they've already calculated those, and I don't know if it's going to be similar to that with the vote by mail.
So did you say the deadline, they can still turn in a vote by mail on election day?
You know the answer to that, Kathy?
They can,
It
it
just has to
wouldn't be
be
counted for
postmarked?
like 2 weeks or something? It will still be counted by hand on election day?
No, the cards?
No, so do they have until actual election day to vote by mail?
No, there's
If I'm
There's
at
a
my
deadline by
house,
mail.
can I mail it on election day?
The day before.
But if it's still, and then if it was an electronic vote, they could vote on election day and those results would be available that night as they have been in the past. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay, but the vote by mail, if the deadline is the day before, how soon would those results be available?
They'll have most of them by election night. They won't have all of them. They'll probably get some that come in over the next couple days. But a large majority of those will be counted that night.
Okay.
And that's, generally the post office turns something around in a day, but not in all cases, so.
What fund would this be taken out of for the increase if it were to be approved?
I think we just make it part of the budget process, so as we look at our ongoing costs, this is something that we would put into that. And I think we could discuss that in our March 14th meeting as we re-engage on the budget at that time. It will just be one of the list items as we talk about all the changes, so. So there's, I don't know if there's, supporters, this is just the Utah League information. Supporters say turnout increase, more time for voters to prepare their ballots. There's no poll workers, things like that need to be dealt with. Some of the critics will say that it's more expensive. In some cases, it's less expensive. In our case, it would be more expensive. More susceptible to voter fraud, more voting errors. I think that's what some of the critics will say. This, the stuff that the city recorders were given that Kathy sent to me, there was a study done that talks about voter fraud and those types of things, and I can forward that to you if you guys want to read that study.
The Cliff Notes on it.
Well, the Cliff Notes is that it's the fraud is minimal. It's not something that should discourage whether that is going to be the yes or no reason to do that.
I would actually think that it would be less fraud
Mhm.
because you're getting it at your address and you're sending it from your address.
And so what happens when you do the vote by mail, you get a bubble sheet essentially. You fill in the bubble sheet and then you sign it, and then they check your signature against what they have on file. So that's to verify that. Okay. What can't be controlled is.
Who's submitting it?
Yeah, is your teenage son gonna
Because
fill it
what
out?
happens if you weren't at the same address?
And get my mail? Lauren could vote for me. That's a very scary
That's scary.
thought.
So it's in the state of Utah from 2000 to 2011. In regular voting, there's been 51 cases of election fraud, and 0 of those cases have been due to vote by mail. Now, from 2000 to 2011, I know there were some communities that did it. Not a whole lot, but there, at least in this study says over that 11-year window, there weren't any election fraud case accusations or cases.
Convictions.
Probably some accusations, but actual cases. So I think, this is really just a policy question for the city council. If this is something that you want to pursue, like I said, we can make it part of the budget process. But we would need a decision probably that March 14th meeting so that we can get back to the county and let them know.
I'd like to pursue putting on the agenda for that date.
Okay, looks like you have your direction.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll forward the stuff that Kathy sent to me, so that you can review it, which is in essence what I was reviewing here. And then if you have any questions, Kathy might be the best resource, and then I could possibly help out too. So.
One quick question I have that, I mean, I think overall it's a great thing. I want as much participation as possible. I think it's really good for conservative values in the city. I think if we get more people voting and participating, I worry about the loss of the poll workers and the civic engagement that we might see with less poll workers. I don't know how many poll workers we actually use in any given election cycle, but with a single location, I would be in favor of moving to the dual process you talked about, because that's got the
having one
still
location,
having one
same
location.
day. Yeah.
Although I worry about the overall cost of the whole change, but
Yeah.
overall it's got a lot to be said for it.
Yeah.
So when you talk to the poll workers, some are pretty stressed out. by the end of the day.
Well,
Right?
None of them ate last year.
And then is the ballot, so you said the county sends the ballot to the residents?
Yes.
And then does the city still send out the informational flyer with candidate information if it's a local election?
Yeah.
So that's sent separately and
So,
the county
yeah,
sends just the,
Yes, the county's just going to handle the elections part of it, all the voter information stuff.
It's
and
still a
what's on our
responsibility of the
website, and
city.
Yeah, that's something. Well, and that's required for the state lieutenant governor's office. I think we have to submit something to them so they can post it online.
is it sent with the ballot or separately?
That is separate from what I remember. And we eventually do publish a sample ballot, so people can see that.
I'm just wondering too if to save costs, if it could be included with the ballot or if that's not legal. Okay.
I don't think they would want to do that, yeah.
Yeah,
The
that's true.
information usually does come out sooner. Well, it will have to be if people are gonna, because I don't remember how early they start sending them out, if it's 2 weeks before, or, yeah.
2 weeks before the general?
Well, probably both, right?
All right.
Okay, so we'll have that on the 14th.
Thank you. Okay. Review and discussion of the February 28th, 2017 City Council work I don't think, is it a work session? Okay, work session. And looks like we have 3 items. 5 is recognition of Leadership Academy graduates. Scott, you'll take care of that.
So that will be a quick one.
Okay.
We were gonna have them come tonight, but I thought, we got a lot going on tonight, so I pushed them to next week.
Okay, and then to consider awarding Any Hour Incorporated the Black Hawk Drive Water Line Replacement Project with Additive A, an amount of $399,253.20.
Just gonna recommend that we award the project and get moving.
Wow.
Can we do an award? Can we do an award on a work session night?
Gonna advertise it as an award.
We're going to advertise it as an action item.
Okay.
This one and only time.
That's right.
One and only time.
Right.
And then the small item, discussion on roads.
Yeah, so what we'll have prepared as staff is we will bring up all the information that we've accumulated over the last year or two.
Years.
Whatever. And so we will review that with city council, which will talk about the study that we did, the proposed fees that we talked about, the proposed revenues generated from that. And we can talk maybe a little bit, and Marty already, kind of covered a lot of this in the retreat, but we can revisit kind of the funding plan, at least in the next 3 years as far as dollars are concerned. And then just open it up to council for comments, questions, and things that you want us to work further on.
Is there I don't know, everything goes roads, or are we just talking about funding for roads?
We're just talking about, well, it's going to be centered on the road fee.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the research that we have. That was the direction we were headed, last year. So that's, if the council wants to go a different direction from that, then we're willing to listen. I mean, because, property tax is another avenue for new revenue. And then budget cuts are also another avenue. I know those are the 3 that we discussed in the retreat. So we can discuss on a general level the pluses and minuses of those 3 options. And then most of the review will be the materials we gathered on the road fee. So the property tax is pretty straightforward. The budget cuts are something that would be a little, well, I mean, we can have that discussion.
Property tax.
Yeah, if we want to generate $1 million in revenue for roads,
But I thought we were considering that like a flat fee on the utility bill.
well,
Not-
that's what I'm saying. That's one option. We can do a property tax increase. So everything that we did last year was focused on a road fee. So that's the direction we've taken things, but we just wanted to be fair to the three options, or a combination of them to fund roads.
Okay. Neighborhood and staff business. Libby, anything? Marty, move back over there. We'll wait. If you would have stayed over there, you would have been next, but.
I could have went home.
Yes. Saved you a few minutes. Ken?
Nothing.
David? Dion? Okay, Marty?
You've just seen the notice for tomorrow night. We have a neighborhood meeting for 900 South project. There's quite an impact for all of the utilities going in that road, plus the reconstruction of the road. So we're holding a neighborhood meeting for that one.
Awesome. Good.
Love that idea.
Time?
It's 5:30 to 7 o'clock
Right here?
tomorrow.
Kind of an open house.
Right
Just
in the middle of your Metro Water.
Marty's providing dinner.
That starts at 5. So we'll be done by 6, I assume. And we've got others coming to cover. I don't have to be here. There's more important people that can cover that, so.
But that's kind of an open house. You can come anytime.
Yep, come in, talk, ask questions. We'll have copies of the plans there of what we've currently thought of on the project, of what we're doing, and can answer any questions that the public has on it.
So you say you will be here tomorrow?
I will be here at 6 probably.
Okay.
Okay.
And you noticed all of the residents about this?
We've hung about 70 notices on all the people in that neighborhood, and then we've noticed it on the website, and hopefully it's gotten out.
Okay.
Social media.
Thank you. Anything else? Chief Thomas? Chief Smith?
Thanks for coming to the awards banquet.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was awesome.
Sherry?
We just finished up today our Food for Fines drive we do every year, and
Dang it.
You had some expired green beans you wanted to?
bring them in first thing in the morning.
Okay.
But we don't take expired food.
Oh, okay.
But we
Expired fines.
but we have filled up 3 big, barrels.
Oh.
That's great. No, not 3, 5 big barrels
Great
of
idea.
food. So it's been successful, and also we've had an ongoing book sale just in the entry of the library. So decided not to do it downstairs, and so we continually are bringing up other things, and people are continually weeding. So got a lot of good stuff there.
What's the average price of a used book?
50 cents or $1. 50 cents for paperbacks, $1 for hardbacks. Won't break the bank. That's it.
Thanks, Sherry.
Denise?
We're gonna put the PAFR out on the website tomorrow. So that's out there. It's just a small highlights of the CAFR.
And will
Just,
you,
yeah.
Sorry, will you email that to?
Yeah, and then I'll
council?
email it out to you.
Make sure they have
So,
that copy.
yep.
Back to you, Scott.
Just executive session. So.
Okay. Tina?
Nothing?
Okay. We're signing the plat.
Where?
Dinah's.
Wherever you want, just across the whole, huge across the front of it.
Hiding.
So Kathy, you have anything? Diana?
No.
I don't have anything. Sid?
Nope.
Lynn?
Just executive session.
Yep. Ben?
Let me encourage everybody to come Thursday to the Rotary Club. We're going to have a couple of international global peace fellows speak who are amazing and have an awful lot to share. Leading authorities on dispute resolution. Probably great for our city. Good people to listen to.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
I I don't have a calendar to review. Do we have anything coming up? Do we need to look at? Work session, exciting. If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and then a motion to go into executive
Make the
session.
motion to adjourn and go into an executive session.
Motion by Sid, do I have a second? By Diana, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and we'll take what do we,
Just break.
just a break. We're gonna take a break for 5 minutes.
Give them a chance to clear out.
Yeah.